This is Coach
in
Lee, and
Kansas.
this is Coach Ken. Say hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken. Sorry. Hi.
Oh, heard a swallow there. Yeah, some people are
Yeah.
commenting on the glasses, and yeah, they are a thing that I have to do sometimes, especially if I want to read the screen. And the bad lighting too, but that's our first live broadcast. Wow, so many hellos. Let's see if I can. Hi, Mary. Hi, Adam. Hi, Darlene. Hi, Emily. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Nick. They're just coming in. Ken can't see it. He's a little bit. He's on the other side of the country right now.
But I know a
Michael,
Darlene
hi.
and a Nick,
Miles,
so hi.
Laurie. But Ken's saying hi to all of you. KP just asked if this will be recorded. No, it will go away when we're done. We might do future Q&As with a recorded broadcast, but for now, we're just going to do a live one that'll go away. Now, are you able to see again, this is the first time we're doing this, but are you able to see like a dollar sliding thing where you can, bribe us to answer your question? Let's see. Can somebody tell me if they see that? Hi from the Philippines. Getting a lot of highs, but nobody's answering my question. Guys, can anybody see the sliding dollar amount where you could? Okay, somebody said yes. Levy said yes. Tammy said yes. Yes, it's on the bottom of the chat windows. All right, so I think we're good to go then. So we have been actually working together. A lot of people are surprised, but we've been working together since somewhere around 2004. And a lot of you on my channel know Ken, but a lot of you don't. And Jeff is telling me now that there is a delay, which I'm pretty sure that YouTube is doing that for us. And so basically, if you want to start asking questions, um, we are doing this for some revenue. Some people need new brakes for their cars and stuff. But feel free to go ahead and start answering. I'm sorry, to start asking a question, and I'm going to answer. Ken's going to answer. So we're both going to chime in on some of them, and we'll just go from there. Uh, I want to make sure though, so if you'll be patient with me, yeah, they're saying 20 to 30 seconds of a delay. All
I
right.
see a question from Chateau Joey.
Okay, so you can see what's going on, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe you can clue me in.
See, Chateau Joey says, through the second breakup, this one I needed because lots of criticizing from her. I asked her back 3 weeks later. She texted me 5 pages of how I hurt her. Still watches my social. What do I do?
Go ahead, Ken. You take the
Okay.
question.
All right. Well, I'll say anytime I'm talking to a client and they say something like, she sent me 5 pages, or he sent me a 3 page breakup letter, or I've got 7 screenshots of everything that they're telling me I did wrong. Usually, if somebody's going to take the time to put 5 pages of how you hurt her, even if it was not a great breakup, 5 pages means they're not completely over you. You have impact on them. I mean, everybody's been over a relationship before. When you're really through a relationship, do you really want to take 5 pages worth to tell somebody why you're done? Or if you're really done, do you take maybe 5 sentences or maybe 5 words? So I would say I understand how 5 pages of how you hurt her would rattle you and shake you. But if she took that much time, that says more a lot of times than even the words that she might have been telling you. So the words might hurt. 5 pages is a good sign. Now, it's not a good sign about it might be a manipulative or it might be a I don't know. I haven't really given enough information to know that. But 5 pages of criticism, there's actually a really good sign in there.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar. When someone is putting out energy towards you, then there's at least some kind of interest, because the people who we are most intimately connected with, those are the ones actually who can irritate us the most. If it's just a stranger that you meet, what they do, what they say to you doesn't matter as much, not even close, as someone who you are really connected to, because then their actions, their words, and even their feelings really matter to you. But it's the strangers who don't matter. And it's the people who we have no interest in the future who don't matter. So if they're putting a lot of energy towards you, for example, writing so many pages, there's a lot in there. And even if it's anger, a lot of times people will talk about how angry their ex is at them. Even if it's anger, it can eventually come back to what it needs to be. It can be where they actually want to be around you again. And this anger usually is tremendous intimacy and pain caused by that intimacy. I'm actually going to sit. I'm going to raise my chair a little bit here. There we go. So yeah, if Ken, it was this, his ex had written 5 pages to him. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what it says. 5 pages.
What were some of the other details?
And I would say that was about it. She follows his social, but I was going to add, if it's 5 pages and it's pure criticism, so that kind of points to either they have an unbalanced view of the relationship. Because let's say if I'm going through a painful breakup with somebody that means a lot to me, I might have 5 pages worth of like credible grievances that I want to air. But most reasonable, healthy people aren't going to send you 5 full pages of criticism without taking ownership of something that they contributed to. It's just kind of an unnatural thing to do. 5 pages of how you messed up. But for all I know, you could be a narcissist. I'm not saying that you are. I don't know. But there's an imbalance there in how this person is perceiving things. So either you really manipulated, you really hurt her, and she kept it pent up for a long time, and now she has 5 pages that she's going to share with you, which is still a good sign that you mean more to her than it might feel like, or she's the one that's not really being reasonable. Because sometimes somebody can hit you with so much pain that in a very odd way, it creates a stronger bond and it makes you want to chase after them more. But her watching your social media is another good positive, I would say. Because if you're ready to move on, you usually just want to do the clean cut. I'm not watching, I'm not contacting, I'm not writing 5 pages. I might write 5 words, ending with the word goodbye and good luck.
Okay, so he just said it's 5 screenshots or texts worth of blame. Yeah, so, and certainly that's a negative. I mean, there's obviously lots of pain and there's hurt between the two of you, and that can keep people from getting back together. I'm not saying that, oh, hey, if they're miserable right now, then that shows you affect them so much that you two are going to get back together. I'm not saying that, and that's not the case in every situation. But I am saying that the more they respond to you emotionally, the more you still affect them emotionally, that there's still at least a chance. Now, it can also be just too much, and it can be just too detrimental and too painful, and they're not interested. So that's a possibility as well. So this lighting is driving me crazy. So I'm going to tweak it just 1 second. So Ken, if you'll wouldn't mind read the next question and getting started on that, I'm going to move something, and I'll be right back.
Got it. I'm just going to put one of the questions in the chat here so you can read it when he gets back. Hi, Coach. I cheated on the love of my life, and she left me on February 18th. D-Day was January 9th. Should I give up hope due to my actions, or should I hold on to the possibility of forgiveness? So that's kind of a limited view on everything, but I'll say just the fact that you cheated on her and that she left you on February 18th, that's not a sign that it's over by any means. Again, without knowing details, so there is a difference in cheating because you're being because you're just a cheater. Maybe you're a serial cheater. Maybe you just have a problem saying no to somebody else. There are situations where somebody cheats because they've been trying to tell somebody else for years what they needed, and they've been having their feelings and their worth just devalued over and over and over again. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that cheating is ever okay. You have responsibility for the actions that you took. But to kind of keep to the answer to your question, no, because you cheated, that doesn't mean that it's over. It might feel like it's hopeless, but I will say that feelings are very real. That doesn't make them true. And it's still way too early to reach the point of hopeless. And that's the kind of question you don't even have to trust. You don't have to trust anybody on. You can see Coach Lee's got a lot of videos with a lot of comments, a lot of stories. you'll find stories within those videos and comments of people who have recovered from far worse than just an affair. Again, not trying to downplay it. I'm not saying, oh, it's no big deal. She'll be back. I don't mean that at all. It is a big deal when you cheat on somebody. But I will say it's not a sign that it's hopeless by any means.
Okay, so
So,
Ken, you're seeing the ones where, the ones obviously I want to answer the ones where they're paying us simply because I would feel awful if we didn't answer those.
yeah.
I don't know where those are. I assume you do.
Let me see. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Sorry. I'm kind of, so this is kind of a
Yeah,
beta run, right? So if you click on what the note, then it gives you a question.
all right. Well, how about you just be in charge of that part? Oh, I see one though.
Okay. Okay.
Me and my ex were together 2 years. Recently became friends with benefits. He came to me wanting this. Any tips? Good strategy. I think he doesn't want to lose me completely. So you've probably heard me talk about how you don't want to do the friendship route to try to get your ex back. And generally speaking, that's true. Doesn't mean that it's not possible because sometimes I've spoken with people, Ken's spoken with people, and they did do the friendship. They accepted friendship, and somehow the two got back together. It's not ideal. If they offer friends with benefits, a lot of times they're afraid of losing you completely. They kind of feel that this is moving faster than they thought. This is a bit extreme, and they're not really sure, and they just kind of want to hang on to you. Sometimes it can be for ego. They want to feel like you want them back, and they're getting to see you every day. And hear me on that one. Your ex's ego, even if they're a good person, will motivate them so much, and they will really be friends with you just so they can be around someone who wants to be with them. And all of us are affected by wanting to be wanted, wanting to be desired, wanting to feel like this other person is looking at us with, through these eyes of just love and lust. And sometimes they will keep you around just to get to feel that. And the thing is, if they were to even be seated in front of a psychologist, they probably would not use those words to describe it. And they wouldn't even realize that's what they were doing. But if you think about it in your own world, in your own life, if you know someone's really attracted to you, if as long as they're not annoying, and obsessive and odd in the way that they interact with you, it's kind of nice to be around them, to know that their eyes look so fondly on you and that you can practically do no wrong. And so that's part of the problem is you become friends with your ex and not lovers with your ex. And they keep you around to make them feel good, then they don't have any motivation to do anything any differently. So uh, this in this case, he offered friends with benefits. I don't know what you told him. Um, my guess is you told him yes. If you did, don't act like a friend. And I don't mean that you shouldn't be friendly. What I mean is that you should still act like someone who is interested in them. Now, hear me on this though. That doesn't mean that you're giving them the privileges of being with you. What I mean is that when they start treating you like you are only a friend, that you don't accept it. Okay. So uh, you would maybe playfully accuse them of being attracted to you, playfully accuse them of having motivations to try to, get you alone, things like that. And that's how you go about not acting like a friend. So if you're already in the situation where you're still friends with this person, my suggestion is that you don't act like a friend. And that if they are showing that they do not want to be more than friends, in other words, they might even, when you are joking about them having motivation to try to get you alone or something, if they try to make it clear, that that's not going to happen, then you don't you don't have time for them. That needs to be your rule. You don't have time for that, and you go do what you want to do. And sometimes you use no contact even when in that. And, we're talking about something that I don't recommend, and it's an odd thing to be in. But sometimes you do have to use no contact even in that to show them this is not what you want. But don't ever act like a friend. And I know Ken has some things to say about that as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I especially say there's a difference in the friendship role, which can be lethal if you have the right personality, you have the right temperament. But even using it in a way that can actually draw them to you, it's like Lee said, you can't be in pursuit of them. It's more like a chance to be on display, but not in pursuit. And there's the classic version of the friend that's like, she said we could be friends, so I'm going over to her house and I'm going to paint her toenails and I'm going to braid her hair, and she's going to ask me questions about how to get the other hot guy attracted to her. That's not good friend zone. When it's more lethal is when, yeah, you can agree to being friends, although I wouldn't recommend it. But sometimes if that's your only access to them, but if you do it, you need to have that personality that shows confidence, and that doesn't mean you're at their beck and call, because like Lee said again, if you make yourself too available under the friend zone, then you're giving them what they're lacking. They don't have a chance to miss you, and you're kind of devaluing yourself and not setting yourself up to be seen as that romantic person of interest. So if you are going to do it, and it's kind of a dangerous position, you have to have the right personality, the right situation, and pick and choose. Like, part of being attractive is making sure that you have things about your life that are interesting. So if every time an ex calls me and says, "You want to come over and watch New Girl, binge watch New Girl with me and eat ice cream?" Yeah, I'll be right there. That's the bad traditional friend zone. But when you can kind of present yourself as strong, interesting, resilient, maybe you ask her to get some insight into, hey, how can you, or I'm sorry, maybe you ask him for insight into how to attract another man to your life. So you can kind of flip that position, but it's a little bit tricky. Some situations it can work, but it can backfire too.
Okay, so here's one related to that. This person was dumped for incompatibility, and her boyfriend reached out in 4 months of no contact. Interesting how that works. And wanted to
Yeah.
be friends with benefits. So her question, and it's a very logical question, is, well, wait a minute, if we were incompatible, why would we be compatible as friends with benefits if we were incompatible as boyfriend and girlfriend? And that's a great question. What's probably going on there is he didn't like feeling like he'd lost you. There's something you provided he likes. Could be sex, could be ego boost, could be companionship, could be intellectual discussion, all those things. But at the moment, he is either doing one of two things. One is he wants you back and he's not really sure about how to go about that. And so he's offering friends with benefits, and he feels like maybe you two can ease back in and that kind of thing. The other thing that he could be doing is that he is afraid that you two are not good long term, but he's not certain. And so he doesn't want to risk losing what you two had over his uncertainty, because he doesn't even know what he wants. And so he's trying to have something with you just in case he figures out he wants it. So, it's a difficult
Yeah.
situation. I try to avoid the broad strokes of saying always turn it down. I like responding to that kind of thing with sarcasm. So if he was to say, let's just be friends with benefits, kind of laugh about that. Like, oh yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just be friends. Got it. Like, better than him. Like, you really know what's going on here. And then I would say, if that happens and you two become friends with benefits, be relentless in terms of flirting with him where you're accusing him of wanting you. Like, you're just trying to get me alone, or keep your eyes up here, things like that, where it's very clear this is not going to be friends, and it's going to have benefits, and we're more than that, and you know it, and I know it, and who are we kidding? That needs to be the attitude. Again, it's not something I recommend, but it happens, and sometimes it's an awkward thing, and sometimes you gamble by completely telling them no. Sometimes I've had coaching clients say to me, they wanted friendship, and I did like you told me. I said, no, I will not accept friendship. And I said, I didn't say to say that. I didn't say to say it that way. If you're harsh or you act too rigid, Sometimes you can push them away. So be kind of gentle with that. And I really do. If you're pitched that, I like the joking way of responding. So maybe like, right, or sure, yeah, whatever, that's cool. Or
Yeah.
something even like okay, no problem. Like it's very casual in your response. Sometimes people will respond with yes, yes. If that I'll do that. As though if that's all you can get, you'll take it, and you don't want to do that. All right, let's go to
Yeah.
another question. This is
Yes.
about an accountability letter. All right, so thoughts on sending an accountability letter if you messed up in the relationship, letter explaining how you messed up and that you still see a future with them. Accountability letters, that's another thing like friends, being friends with an ex. It's complicated. So, accountability letters generally are when you have cheated or when you have done something really bad that was maybe like you insulted their parents, or there was one guy who told me that she got so mad at him, she said something like, I know why your wife died because she couldn't stand being around you. And he just basically said that was it. I can't feel anything for her again. So usually, if you haven't
Repeated
apologized,
affairs.
what'd you say?
Sorry, like repeated affairs or even
Yeah, that
physical
too.
abuse or anything like that.
Generally speaking, if you have apologized already, I don't suggest you do an accountability letter. That's usually if you argue with them about it. Like, for example, let's say they break up with you and they say, I'm breaking up with you because you never show me physical affection, you never touch me. And the other person argues, yes, I do, or whatever. An accountability letter is when you have not taken accountability. And if you already have, then you really just kind of look bad by continuing to apologize over and over again. So that's not something that I'm high on, is the accountability letter when you've already apologized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like most of the time it comes across as still pleading. It comes across as still chasing and in pursuit, and people can rationalize it enough so that it feels like it's warranted. No, but she always told me I wasn't affectionate enough, or he always told me that he wished he felt more support. So you can rationalize and really feel like you owe somebody. I really need to articulate. They really need to know just how sorry I am. But like Lee said, normally after a breakup, especially if you've already done the pursuit, you've already done the apology, I would recommend going against the accountability letter, unless there's just sometimes, people say, well, it takes two people to argue, it takes two to tango, or however you want to say it. Sometimes in a relationship, it really just takes one person being extremely selfish, abusive, toxic. In those situations, if you know what you did, you were the cause of breaking it. I don't mean that you were imperfect, because both people are imperfect. But occasionally, if what you did was the direct cause and you haven't taken accountability for that, than just doing the quiet game or going no contact. Sadly, sometimes it still works because the person that you've been mentally and emotionally abusing is just so sensitive and their sense of worth has been warped to the point that they'll still chase you. But most of the time, I don't recommend doing an accountability letter unless you have just been above and beyond and you really were abusive, toxic, or there's just some clear reason why this was not a case of two people just running into some issues.
All right. So we have another question here from Alan. She told me she wants to be a better version of herself. This sounds a lot like the I need to work on myself
Yeah.
pitch. She said that when she, I guess, becomes a better version of herself, then we could date. She promised me she wouldn't be with others. We were long distance. We were together for 2 years. What should I do? All right. So long distance is bad. Long distance is tough. If just for future reference, avoid those. Okay. If you're already in them though and you love this person, then that doesn't really do anything for you. But so she needs to work on herself or wants to be a better version of herself. So the question, the honest, rational question here is, why couldn't she work on herself and be with you? As a matter of fact, why couldn't you help her? Right? Why couldn't you help her be a better version of herself? Well, you could. And when you love somebody and you're in a relationship with them, really it's constantly helping both of you be better versions of yourself. I mean, that's what it is. So her saying this is not true. She is really, honestly, I'm telling you, she's not thinking, I'm just going to be a better version of myself and then we'll get back together. I just She's not thinking that. She's saying she wants to be a better version of herself because it sounds deep and meaningful and profound. And she thinks that it will be something you can't argue with. She's lying to you. That's not the reason. Um, and both Ken and I can attest to this, that we've gone through bouts in our lives where we have been some pretty sorry people. And that does not mean that we should leave the person we're with. That's not how that works. You were made to be with someone else. You weren't made to be alone on a mountaintop. And so this is a fairy tale. And her saying she's not going to be with anybody else, you can't trust what they say when they break up with you, because they're wanting you to leave them alone, and they're wanting you to. They think if they give you less reason to be emotional or angry, that you will give them an easy breakup, and they're going to tell you all kinds of stuff they don't mean. And if I didn't have so much experience with this, where people would tell me he said he wasn't interested in being with anybody else, 2 or 3 days later, she sees him kissing another woman, or he sees her kissing another guy, whatever it is. I mean, that's almost regular as far as a daily occurrence where I hear about it. And so usually when I hear somebody say something like that, I even wonder sometimes if they've already got somebody lined up. I don't mean to be so negative. I'm just telling you, if you're putting your hopes into this, into what she said, I would not put my hopes into it. And I would, if you want to try to get her back, I do have some things in the emergency breakup kit about long distance, but and also some videos on long distance. And I know Ken can talk some to this as well. But no contact is obviously still going to be your base. And here's the thing you have to ask yourself: let me say it this way. If you're willing to move to where she is, because this is the real reason long distance relationships break up. And like the other thing I was talking about earlier, and so many things, this is not something they would consciously think about, but it's where the distance has eroded attraction for so long. They're not motivated to be with you. So if you say to them, "Was it the distance?" No, it's not the distance. Well, they can't really tell you that that's what it was, but that's what eroded attraction. Because think about it, all the effort it takes to see you, okay, over the years, over the months. You said you were together 2 years. That will erode attraction, because she's not able to see you every day. So the intimacy is not going to be as high, not every day, but several times a week, several times a month. So there's all kinds of things working against you, and eventually attraction falls. So then the motivation to work on it is much less. But I can tell you this much: if she does come back around, reach out to you, it needs to be on the table. We've got to bridge geography here so we can be together, like really be together, or else it's long distance relationships. Most of them don't make it more than 2-3 years at best. I know there are exceptions. Most of them don't get that far. Okay, Ken?
Yeah, I totally agree. There's something that you're missing part of the story. She's not giving you the full story, because, like Lee said, think about it in your own life too. When you're going through a challenging time, like, I want to be a better version of myself. So you want to focus on you. Like Lee said, when you're trying to be a better version of you, or you're facing something challenging, a lot of times in a call, somebody might say, "I really need to deal with this issue," or "I've got this coming up and I'm really stressed out." Well, when you're stressed out or you're going through a challenging time, most people will pull the people closest to them even closer. Like if you talk to a psychiatrist or a therapist, they'll usually say, "Hey, if you're about to kick an addiction, if you're about to challenge something, a habit, or reinforce something good that you're trying to improve on, then you lean on the people that are closest to you. You don't push them away so you can go be a better version of yourself." And then it's adding unrealistic on top of unnatural when she says, "But don't worry, I'm not going to date anybody else." But like Lee said, well, if that's the case, then wait, you like me / love me possibly enough to get back together with me later. But somehow, even though you're not going to be dating anybody else now, you still don't want to even be with me, even though we're long distance. That doesn't make sense. There's too many conflicting things in there that just tell you she's handing you basically a box of nothing, which means that the reasons aren't something you can change. I need to work on myself. Well, when somebody really wants to break up with you, they can tell you something like that. They get to sound deep. They get to sound complicated. They get to feel confused. They even get, a lot of times, the person they're breaking up with will voice admiration, like, "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for being honest." So they get to avoid the sticky, awkward, painful part of that conversation, but it's also not honest. And there's nothing you can do to fix it. What are you going to do? You're going to tell her, no, you don't need to be a better version of yourself. You're fine the way you are. You really can't argue with that kind of an excuse. And I think that's why she picked it and handed it to you.
And by the way, folks, you can book a call with Coach Ken. All you have to do is go to dotheyloveme.com. Okay, and he's my lead staff coach. A lot of you don't know who he is. Well, you're getting to meet him and see that he does know his stuff. Like I said, he's worked with me since 2004, give or take 2-3 years in the middle there. But you can book a call with him at dotheyloveme.com. dotheyloveme.com. All right, let's go to another one here. No contact 5 months. She's been watching his Insta, but she unfollowed him other places. Now she's tagged him on Facebook in a post. So usually when this happens, it's simply a case of they're wanting to keep tabs on you because depending on the day, they regret their decision a little bit, but not enough to approach you or to, really give serious consideration to getting back together yet. And a lot of these things, it depends on how much time you're willing to invest into wait on this person. Because if she's still somewhat keeping up with you, then there's still a little spark in there. Now, if it's going to become enough, that's the question. And the other thing is, don't fall for, seriously, every day, my assistant fields emails, there's comments on YouTube where people are saying, my ex liked the post on Facebook, should I contact them? Because it seems like maybe that's them reaching out and that maybe, I shouldn't ignore them, I should reach out. It doesn't count unless it's a message to you. So the minimum that you should respond to, in other words, don't respond to anything that's less than this, a message on Insta, Facebook, or text message directly to you, or a phone call. Anything less than those, if it's a like, or even if it's a comment, like if you post a picture of something and they post like, that's a great hat. That's not worth it either. You could say thanks if you wanted, but that doesn't mean you text them and say, hey, what's going on? You try to mirror them to a large degree, because the risk you face is you don't want to go further than they are. Because again, you're dealing with, like I talk about, the totem pole of attraction, and you don't want to be an inch lower than them. So, and how do we measure that? Well, it's measured in interest expressed. And if you're the one who's writing a sentence more, it gets a little bit silly, but you have to understand that if they're just starting to move towards you a little bit, the last thing you want to do is overwhelm them. You want to keep, I actually just recorded a video today where I talk about momentum and how when they're coming towards you, you want to keep them coming towards you. Sort of like the carrot on the stick. You don't just give them the carrot, right? You keep moving backwards with the carrot so they keep moving forward. Because if you stop their momentum by giving them everything they want, like if they say, I'm thinking maybe we could get back together, or I'm thinking about it, what do you think? If you're like, oh yeah, no doubt, I've missed you so bad, let's get back together right now. It's very anticlimactic for them. It stops the momentum. So that's why I say so often, the best thing you could do is say, I'm open to that, but I really want to take it one day at a time. Where you almost are giving them a consolation prize. You didn't say yes, and you didn't say no, because once again, if you don't have the carrot at all, there's no point in them moving forward. So you've got to have the possibility. You've got to have them feeling some progress, but you can't give them the carrot right out, and you can't run away too fast with the carrot, but you do need to move away. Ken?
Yeah, I totally, not a surprise. I agree. It's one of those things too. I call it good anxiety, bad anxiety. One of the principles of why no contact works is because you're forcing them to reevaluate the value of the person they just lost. So you're showing them that you have more strength than probably they anticipated and maybe you felt by removing yourself, so they get the chance to miss you. I like to kind of compare it to, imagine your relationship is a house and they've asked you to move out of the house. Most of the time, if they're the one making the decision, they kind of know emotionally you might leave the house because you don't have any choice. They're breaking up with you. But if you stay camped out on the porch, just hoping and waiting for another chance, you rob them of the chance to miss you. So they don't get to build that good anxiety. They don't get to like get that anxiety triggered about, well, wait, she's not chasing me. He's not chasing me. I kind of thought when I broke up with them, they seemed devastated. I just, everybody likes to be liked. Everybody likes to feel pursued, even if they decided that they're going to move on. So when they look out on the porch and they see you looking in the window like this, like, hey, I saw you like my Facebook. I saw you like my, well, you're relieving that sense of good anxiety that you want building up. That sense of, well, okay, I thought he was there, but I liked his comment or I liked his picture. So if you overly respond, like, hey, I'm right here. I saw that you liked my picture. So do you want to talk? I liked your picture too. So I think we both like each other. Can we talk? You have to give them room, and you have to kind of create this idea. Even if you don't feel it, it's natural not to feel it, but you want to project more of a sense of, oh, I'm fine. I'm good. Hey, I like that you liked it, but you also broke up with me. So you let me know you're not really serious about being with me right now. So I'm not going to overreact to any kind of sign or positive sign that you're showing me.
Hey guys, so
it relieves too much of that anxiety. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm seeing like Hawk just said something really nice to me, and I'm seeing those. I can't respond to all of them because there's so many messages, but I'm seeing them. Brombinus, I appreciate your comment, and so many. Please don't stop, but just don't be hurt that I'm not able to respond to all of them. So the next question we have here from Shannon. My ex left me for another woman, then he started seeing me and her. Now he had a bad car accident, and they have been at the hospital for 7 days. I was asked to stay away. Wow. All right. So I'm assuming he asked you to, no. Actually, I can't assume that. I don't even know if he's conscious, but somebody asked you to stay away. And I assume maybe it was the new woman. I don't know. But you got to stay away if you've been asked to stay away. You only look bad when you overstep your welcome, when you go where you're not welcome. So you definitely can't do that. I have a lot of questions. If she knows about you and you know about her, I'm wondering about how that was working. I'm wondering what he has to say and if he's conscious. Yeah, you got to stay away if that's been said, because first of all, if he said it, I mean, it's just like being broken up with. You cannot fight the breakup. You have to give it to him. But if she said it, here's the thing. He is going to hold her accountable for that if he doesn't like it. The other thing I'm going to say is, if he was dating you both, that's just usually going to be a bad situation to get into, unless it's understood by everybody and it's just casual dating. But if he's acting like, he's in some exclusive thing with the two of you, I know some people get into that, but that usually does not work out well. And you probably need, going forward at least, to say, this is not working for me. Wish you the best. Change your mind, reach out, and maybe we can talk about it, but I don't think this is going to work for me. Something like that. This is one of those situations where I do suggest being kind of tough on this, being kind of cold, because you're being abused. And part of it's because he thinks you'll take it. He sees himself as so much more attractive than you that he can offer you a bad deal and you'll take it just to get a piece of him, just to get crumbs from his table while she's sitting up there for the meal, is what it looks like, what it sounds like. So, I feel bad for the situation you're in, and I'm going to tell you to get away and to really reevaluate if you want to be with him, because you might be, let me say it this way, he might be the one for you, but he doesn't see you as the one for him. He sees you as an option. Ken?
Yeah, there's a lot of details, obviously, that are being left out, but you can make the assumption that whatever those details are, this isn't a good situation. Like, I'm curious if the other person knows about you, or is this like an open, hey, he's only seeing the two of you, or are you aware of each other? At the minimum, what you know is that even though he's been in an accident and he's been there for, sounds like a pretty serious accident, but what do you do when you're in a serious accident, when you're in a life-threatening situation or something that really shakes you up? You're drawn to the people that mean the most to you. I'd want to see the person I love. I'd want to see the people I really, really liked, even. So there's a couple of big warning signs. And the good news is it's easy to say sometimes, okay, so this isn't a healthy relationship, stay away. Although me and Coach Lee both know what it feels like to have to go through that. But when you do it, you can tell yourself, sadly, sometimes the thing to do to get over a manipulating relationship is also the most effective thing you can do to draw them back. So you get to make a peace treaty between your heart and your head. You tell your head, who's probably in agreement with most of your family and friends telling you to get away from this person, that what you're doing is the best way to get over them and to move on. But if you have that kind of depression or that sadness or just you're devastated, and it doesn't matter how much your head knows you want to get over them, your heart is still in love with a possible manipulator or a blatant manipulator. I don't know. But you get to tell your heart, okay, I'm going to move on and I'm going to present like I have the strength and determination to not look back, knowing that that's the best thing you can do to even get the attention of somebody who's treated you like this. And again, I'm not recommending that you take them back. I hope they don't come after you. But somebody who's disrespected you to this degree, if there is a chance to win them back, you have to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, and so another coach on staff is Coach Rex for mostly for anxiety and breakup anxiety. And I actually saw him yesterday, and we were talking, and he was telling me about sort of an extreme example where a couple was divorced, and as a matter of fact, I mean, he's not go. This is not something he would hide. So this was him back close to 25 years ago. She left him, and she was with another man, and he used simple no contact. He just backed away, was not going to do it. At the beginning, he was not that way. He was begging and pleading, but he backed off because he figured it out. This wasn't working. She ended up about 2 years later leaving this guy and coming back and begging Rex to be with her. So he did get that opportunity. Now, he didn't want that opportunity when it happened, but it shows you basically that sometimes being tough like that can really work because even though this situation was just him going into no contact, it wasn't like he was awful, but he was determined and he was serious. And there was even times when she would contact him where she was with this other guy, and he was not interested in talking to her while she was with this other guy. And it was like a point of no return, like I'm going to burn the ships type of thing. And it ended up working in that situation. Doesn't always work, but even if it doesn't, in that type of situation and the situation that you describe, it's one of those things you have to stand up for yourself. And I am perfectly fine if I'm standing up for myself when I've been wrong. I mean, really wrong, not just me being arrogant or narcissistic or something, but actually where I've been wrong. And I just simply stand up for myself. I would much rather take a risk on that and risk losing them than to do the opposite. So if you want to book a call with Rex, Coach Rex, you can go to myexpatcoach.com and just click on anxiety, and you'll see his calendar. That's myexpatcoach.com, and just click on anxiety. All right, another question.
I will say I've heard good things about Rex too.
Rex is awesome. And just like all three of us, it's a lot of the school of hard knocks. Let me tell you, we're not talking about things we don't know and that we don't know personally. Okay, so this person, Nick, ended it after 10 months of limbo. Felt like we weren't getting anywhere after she asked for space. Told her to reach out when she was ready. That was 6 months, no contact. Thoughts? All right, so there are details. If we run a coaching call, I'd want to look. I can't talk. I'd want to know a lot of details. But so I'm having to be general here because there's a lot of questions that are just burning in my mind that I could better answer this question with if I knew. But when someone does want that space, it's not good. And that's why it's so important to give them that space, because you don't ever want them to feel like they can't escape you. That is possibly one of the least attractive things that you could do. And, one example could be, have you ever been maybe babysitting or around some little cousins or somebody else's kids, and they are the most annoying kids in the history of the earth, and you cannot escape. You try to go to a room, you try to go to the bathroom, they're breaking down the door, you can't get away from them. Imagine that. And I hate to use that comparison, but it's accurate, because if someone is wanting to break up with you, you are a negative to them at that moment. And when you're around them, you're actually harming the situation even more, because for whatever reason, you are not as attractive as you were. And so it's basically like an injury that's being re-injured over and over and over, because you're presenting the least attractive version of yourself, because at that moment, for whatever reason, you are, and it's just getting worse and worse. And so you have to back away, no doubt. And that doesn't always mean they're going to come back. I wish that it did. You said 6 months of no contact. So you're in the situation now where if I if things were just ideal and perfect, I would say don't ever contact them, only wait for them to contact you. But at the same time, once enough time has passed, you don't really lose anything. And there are some odd situations. And if I didn't acknowledge the odd situations, I wouldn't be being honest with you, and I wouldn't be much of a coach. And there are other coaches I know who say never, ever, ever contact them, so help me God. But what about those situations where, I'll just tell you one example. There was a girl who broke up with a guy. She was like 20, 21. And a few months later, she wanted to get back together with him. She thought there's no way he would want to talk to me. He hates me because I broke up with him. And she said she would dial the number, and couldn't go through with calling. And he ended up reaching out to her. He reached out casually. Okay. He just kind of said, hey, wanted to see how you were doing. Something like that. And they just kind of had a conversation going, and she started bringing up some memories and kind of being playful. And it was clear she was liking talking to him. And I had already told him, if you get in the situation, it's okay if you want to say, we should grab coffee sometime. That doesn't really set you up for rejection, because you're stating it. We should grab coffee sometime. You're not asking. So she said, yes, I'd love that. And so he was actually texting me while he was texting her. And he told me she said that. And I said, say, all right, today works for me, and so does Wednesday. And so he said that, and she said, perfect, today at 3 o'clock works for me. So they had coffee and they got back together. So that's why you do see me say, once so much time passes, if you want to reach out to them, you're not hurting things or making them worse. Now, some of you don't want to do that, and I understand it. Sometimes the momentum is so slow and progress is happening so slow that it takes a long time. I hear stories where it takes years, and some people don't want to wait that long. I don't think I would want to wait that long. If you do, that's your business. But what I'm telling you is that you could contact them. 6 months of no contact, you haven't heard from her. If it were me and I was really missing this person, wanting to be with them, I would probably just reach out. Say, hey, I was thinking about you the other day, wondering how you're doing. Have a conversation, see how it goes. And if she really seems like she's into talking to you and she's local, just say, we should grab coffee sometime. See what she says. You're not, neutering yourself by doing that. It's not that big a deal at that point. And if you don't get a response from her, or if it's very just low ball, time to move on. So those are my thoughts on it, and that's based on real life experience and not just a nice sounding philosophy.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to this one here from Edward. Okay, so breakup after 4 years, didn't hear from her for 9 months. He gave in and contacted her. She told him she doesn't love him anymore. Still has pictures of him in her room and Insta. Ken, I was talking a lot there on that one. What do you think?
Oh, can you run that question by me one more time?
Yeah. So they were together for 4 years. He broke up with her, didn't contact her for 9 months, but then he did. And she said she doesn't love him anymore. She still has pictures of him in her room and on Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the question unless the question is, are you think you're making the right decision? Well, if there's a lot of questions you'd have to know about. Was the relationship good? Were there the majority of the time that you were together? Was it a good relationship, a healthy relationship? Did you feel respected? Did you feel heard? And then something happened that caused the breakup? Because sometimes when you're in no contact, one of the good things that happens is if your beliefs don't line up with your actions, then sooner or later, if your actions are consistent, they can change your beliefs. So maybe you start doing no contact because you know that it's more attractive to present like you have more strength than you feel. But a strange thing happens when you're like living out and in essence, some ways pretending. It just feels like acting. Then you actually, your mind, it's almost like your mind notice says, wow, I think I'm stronger than I realized. I didn't know I could actually live every day like I could live without this person, like I could survive and actually even pretend to have this much strength. So after some time and no contact, you actually kind of realize, remember who you are, and you might even feel stronger than you felt before. So if they're coming back then, and then you might have a restored view of the relationship, then I trust that version. If you decide, you know what, now that I've had a chance to kind of remember who I am, remember what I'm worth, remember what I want, I don't want that. Then I say more power to you. And that happens quite a bit. But sometimes you also get, there can be like almost like a whiplash effect where you're really wanting somebody back and maybe you want them back more than you expected. And then when they come back, I talk to a lot of clients. They'll say, it's so strange. Okay, Coach Ken, they came back today. They said they want to set up a date or they want to talk or they let me know that they miss me. And maybe I've been talking to this client for even months. The funny thing is, not long after that, they'll say, the funny thing is, now I'm not sure. Now I'm not sure if I actually want them back. I mean, is that strange that now that they're interested in me, I think I might be happier without them. So sometimes you kind of get that whiplash effect. I would just say, trust yourself now, because when you're not in agony and you're not dealing with the breakup so close to the breakup, that's probably the more authentic you. It's just sometimes right after a breakup, it feels like the authentic version of me is that I want to beg and I want to write them a letter and I want to get some roses and propose and I want to pour my heart out. A lot of times that's not really the authentic version of us. That's us when we're in an overwhelming amount of pain. So it feels like that's who we really are. With enough time, I'd say, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry about putting that piece of paper up. I was saying hi to Sharpshooter.
What's up, Sharpshooter?
All right. So my response to her having pictures of you and still has pictures of you on Instagram. I'm wondering how you know she has pictures of you still in her room. But
probably told him.
So there's some, if you want to go over to the dark side, not really, but there's something that I actually call the guided retrieval. And that is such a pretentious sounding name for a technique. But it really depends on if she's talking to you a lot. So for example, if you were contacted by her and she's talking to you, she's reaching out to you, she's telling her facts and feelings about her life, what's going on day to day, those are signs she's missing and wanting intimacy with you. And if her words and her actions don't match, in other words, she's reaching out to you, she's asking questions, she's telling you things, she still has pictures on Instagram, still has pictures in her room, but then apparently you brought it up pretty seriously for her to say, I don't love you. In other words, this wasn't just a casual conversation, which I would have told you to just have a casual conversation with her first. But because you don't want to jump back in, especially if she's not ready. If she's moving towards you slowly, you don't want to run sack her like a quarterback, right? So, so the guided retrieval is where you have a situation where her words don't match her actions. She's making effort to reach out to you, making effort to find out things about you because she's missing that intimacy, and she's staying in your life. That's where you start acting like her boyfriend. Okay, so that's guided retrieval. And of course, women can do it too, but you would say, hey, there's a great new restaurant over on Fifth Avenue. I don't want to be a guinea pig by myself, so I can pick you up at 7 Friday. And then you could say, I could possibly do Sunday. Let me know. So you've skipped over the part of, hey, do you want to get back together with me? Or do you ever see us getting back together? All that stuff. You've gone right back into pursuing in a good way, not in a way that lowers your value, but in a way that you would if you two first started dating. Okay. And I might do a video on guided retrieval at some point because it does get really technical, but it's basically where you choose to start over with this person and you just start acting like their girlfriend or their boyfriend. Hey, Friday night, I was thinking about doing this. I can pick you up at 7. Where you're not really asking, it's not a way where your value will be lowered. That's something you can do. And again, we're all human beings. And like I used to say a whole lot, we're not math problems. So there's different ways to do it. And so when I talk in generalities, stick with those, but just know on a coaching call with Ken, you might hear some more techniques you haven't heard before. And the same is true of the emergency breakup kit.
Yeah, if I can throw in there too, what you said about the guided retrieval, it can work too when you avoid the label. Sometimes the label and the future casting and the expectation creates that anxiety in the other person. So when you're doing what Coach Lee describes, it's almost like you're just kind of living in the moment. And some people can function very well in a relationship in the moment without the labels and expectations that come with, are we back together? Do you want to talk about the future? Do you want to talk about forever?
Yeah. All right. So Lori says we were together 4 years. He started acting very distant. So I broke up with him because I knew that's what he really wanted. I told him not to contact me, and I'm not so sure I made the right decision. So breakup remorse. And you're wondering what you should do about it. Well, the good news is that if you were the one to break up with him, then the ball's in your court anyway. And so you can reach out and just simply say something like I've said before, I would start casually. Okay, with, hey, I was thinking about you, just wanted to see how you're doing. Now, the real issue though is you said started acting very distant. I'd want to know some more things. I would ask you other questions, but is there someone else? Were you two bickering a lot? Were there changes emotionally or physically? I'd want to know, let's see, did you say how long you were together? 4 years. Okay. And this is the case with a lot of people who are marriage minded. Was the relationship progressing? In other words, did it feel like it had maxed out? Because for some people, if there's not something to aspire to and it looks like you're headed that way, it can lower attraction. And for some people, if you don't get there, if it just seems to always be sort of in this, what's our future like, it can lower attraction. I don't mean to sound too traditional here, but for a lot of guys who are broken up with by girls, by women, in long-term relationships, sometimes it's because they're wondering, is this guy serious about being with me forever? Are we going to get married? Because that's important to them. And they start to think it's not going to happen. And if it is going to happen, it's kind of like this stage has expired and I'm beginning to feel like the attraction's falling. And so, it does get pretty complicated there. And so I would have some other questions, but the good news is the ball's in your court and you can reach out, casually ask how he's doing. And you can, if things are going well, you can say, we should grab coffee sometime, be free. Something simple like that, and see if you can start over with him and move slowly, kind of like you're dating him day one, only you have a lot more information to go on. Ken?
Yeah, I would say one of the things that caught my attention, you said he was starting to kind of pull away or send you signals that maybe he wasn't fulfilled or happy in the relationship. So you broke up with him to let him go. So normally it's like one of two different things. There's the authentic, which is maybe you were, and I have no idea. Let me just start off there. I don't know which one it might be, or it could be some unusual situation. I don't know. It's a pretty general question to some degree. But it could be that if you feel like you were too controlling and your expectations maybe weren't as reasonable looking back as they may have felt in the moment, then maybe you actually broke up with him and he was doing his best. I have no idea. If, on the other hand, he was kind of giving you those signals or gaslighting you or just disrespecting you or consistently not making you feel heard or of worth, so you broke up with him because conversation wasn't doing it. You were trying to tell him how you felt, and he either didn't acknowledge what you felt or he just maintained what he was doing. If you broke up with him because you weren't happy, then I would say stay in the position you're in now, knowing that that's the best chance to get him to wake up and realize that he's lost something of value. If, on the other hand, you feel like you overreacted and maybe you weren't being reasonable with your expectations of him, then I would say swallow your pride and go against what you told him, because you did say, don't reach out to me again. So if you feel like you were more the cause than the person maybe being gaslighted or manipulated, then I would even own the fact that you said, don't reach out to me again. By just saying, hey, I know I said that, but I've had some time to really think about things, and I think I may not have been fair. Overly apologizing is not attractive. Not apologizing when you know that you've done something worthy of an apology is also not attractive. So there's a lot of details that's kind of missing from that situation, but that's the first thing I want to know, more details.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of questions, and we're just hang tight. We are getting to them. We're not going to rush out of here. So appreciate you guys hanging on. We're trying to get to these, and we're trying to give you solid, meaningful answers. All right. So this is from Ron. I went no contact, and my ex reached out and said she wants to be friends. Now things will be fine for a minute, but when she gets mad, she threatens to walk out of my life again. She ignores me for hours at a time. What should I do? This sounds like a Ken question.
Okay, yeah, I was kind of chomping at the bit of this one.
The reason I said that, by the way, is because his specialties. All right, now he's excellent with just general breakups, like me, but in terms of borderline personality disorder, dealing with a real full-fledged narcissist and emotional abuse like that, I mean, that's his area. That's him. So that's why I instantly said this is a Ken question.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. No, it sounds like a manipulation. So when you went into no contact, again, if you look at the house, a relationship is like a house. She kind of devalued you, put you out on the porch. You showed that you had more you had more resilience, you had more confidence, you had more sense of who you are. So you didn't stay out there. It got her attention. A lot of times a manipulator will break up with you because they know what you feel for them is more authentic than what they feel for you. So in essence, it's like they just kind of put you on the shelf, but they knew you were going to be there. But then when you don't show the reaction and the behavior and the pursuit, and you don't plead and beg, then it gets their attention. And it's like, well, where did he go? I asked him to leave the house, but I thought he was going to be waiting at the door, hoping for another chance. So that anxiety, that sense of loss, like, oh, I thought I had Ron, but he's not there anymore. It wounds their ego. A lot of times a narcissist can actually look like they're very much in love with you. If you hurt the ego of a narcissist, they'll come after you. A lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, because what they're really feeling is a sense of panic. Like, I thought you thought I was as great as I thought I was. Where did you go? So when they reach out to you and then you give them that relief of anxiety, you essentially soothe their sense of loss, then they put you back on the shelf. And then once in a while, when they feel like, well, it's been a few days, it's been a week, it's been 2 weeks. Hey, Ron, you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure. So if you're closing the gap after no contact, you could call it that. If you're trying to close that gap using no contact, and you're with somebody who just keeps giving you enough contact so that you haven't feel like you've lost hope, but they're not really closing that distance in a way that's meaningful, so you feel like you're actually getting that relationship back. The painful truth is, take another half step back. Just don't be so willing to relieve that anxiety and that sense of, wait, did Ron leave too far? Hey, Ron. Okay, he's right there. All right, good. Never mind. Because they're treating you. It's almost like Pavlov. They have enough anxiety that maybe they've lost you. They reach out to you just a little. And the painful thing is it relieves your anxiety too, because you're hoping they're going to reach out. And they do, and you're like, oh, thank goodness. All right, so, hey, I'm right here. Wait, where'd they go? So if you're getting that back and forth, then that's probably the situation. And if they're genuinely confused, the good thing is take a step back anyway. If they're genuinely confused, then you still need to send that message that I don't just exist to make you feel better when you're afraid you've lost me. You don't want to train somebody to look at you that way. It'll wear down how both of you see you.
Oh yeah. And so I just want to look back at the question again before I answer. Yeah. You being on eggs and what is the phrase there? You've been on
Eggshells.
eggshells with her. That is not how you want to live your life. And first of all, well, other than that's not how you want to live your life, it's not attractive. If she feels like that's how she gets to you, that's how she grabs you by the nose and moves you around to do whatever you want her to do, she will keep doing it, first of all. Second of all, she will not respect you. And because she doesn't respect you, she will not be attracted to you. It is a death spiral. So the first thing that I suggest you do is to show her she does not get to you. All right. I'm going to compare her to a child because she acts a lot like a child based on what you're describing. If a 4-year-old comes up to you and starts telling you that you're going to drive him somewhere or make him a sandwich or give him $20, do you really take him seriously? I mean, do you squeeze your hands together and wring your hands and worry and think I don't want to tick him off, or do you kind of almost laugh at him, kind of smile? Doesn't really, it's almost amusing to you. It's like a police officer. You get pulled over by a police officer and he comes up to you, are you going to be like, hey, give me 10 push-ups? He's going to look at you and think this is cute, because you don't have any power over him. And that's how you need to think of her. She doesn't have power over you. So when she starts pulling this emotional, abusive, manipulative BS, that's when you look at her and smile almost like you think it's cute. And she may react with anger because whenever you change the rules, she's going to respond with anger. And, Ken can get in this on a coaching call or something. If you go to dotheyloveme.com, you can book a call with him. And he's the lead coach on my staff for breakups. And he can get into this more with you on a call, but I'm not kidding. You show her that not only will you not do the things she wants you to do by abusing you, but that she can't get to you, that you almost find it amusing that she thinks she has power over you. And she will not respond well to it in the beginning. Expect it. Expect she's going to yell and storm out and all that. You've got to be willing to let it happen and let her leave and laugh while she leaves. And I'm not even kidding.
I love that. Can I add one more part? Because I meant to mention this.
Go ahead, man.
That she threatens to walk out of my life again. It's like if somebody threatens you by removing the relationship, you have no choice but to call them on that threat. Look at it this way. You have to have a minimal boundary that you expect in order to be in a relationship. And that's that the other person knows they want to be in a relationship. If somebody says, if you don't do this or you do that, then I'm walking. Well, I would stop everything right there and just say, well, let me be clear. Maybe I misrepresented myself. If you're not sure you want to be with me, then sadly, that's grounds for me to know I don't want to be with you. I mean, what's the alternative? Are you supposed to like audition for the role of boyfriend every morning? You're trying to make sure that she's impressed every day. If somebody uses loss of the relationship in an argument like, well, if you do that again, I'm mad. I'm going to walk out on you. You have to, like Lee said, you have to prove that you're strong enough to live without them, to have any chance at attraction, and for them to have enough respect for you to want you back.
Yeah. And by the way, if somebody starts threatening the relationship, that's one of those things that's just not supposed to happen. That's not something they can threaten. That's too low of a blow. And like he said, you cannot show that you will negotiate with terrorists. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to get to all these if possible. All right. Trey says, I've been trying to do no contact and she still reaches out every day and talks like we were still together and says she wants to stay close but not date again. All right. So my opinion, that's where you can start to do guided retrieval because you're doing no contact. You're not initiating. That's what I assume based on what you said. but she doesn't really want the breakup. Right? She wants some element of it, or at least she thinks she does. So I would call her bluff on that, and I would say, "Hey, there's this new place on Friday, this new steakhouse. I'm gonna go get dinner there. I don't want to be a guinea pig, so I can pick you up at 7. I can also go Sunday. Which one of those works?" Just start acting like her boyfriend again, and you basically lead her back into the relationship. If she doesn't and she pulls away, you go back into no contact. You've lost nothing. But when someone does something like this, a lot of times they don't really know what they want, and they don't, even if they think they do, they don't know how to go back into it. And what happens is, like Ken mentioned earlier, and I mentioned a lot in my videos, if you start trying to slap that label on it, that can spook some people. It's better to be first and name it later, sort of like the example I use of a red crayon. Whether or not we slap a label on that thing, it's still a red crayon. So some of the best relationships that I know that went for months, they didn't have a label. They just, one day, they realized he's my boyfriend, she's my girlfriend. They were together, they were a couple, and they hadn't even put a label on it. Labels should come after it's obvious. In other words, it shouldn't be like, we have now labeled this, so now we start acting differently. It really should be you two almost practically wake up one day and say, "Oh my goodness, will you look at that? We are boyfriend and girlfriend, or we're dating, or whatever you want to call it." So in this situation, I would start dating her again, just like you just met her. Let's go get coffee. Let's go, to dinner. Take her roller skating, ice skating. I mean, be creative and stuff like that. And if she ever starts to question you, "Why are you doing this? We're not dating," and that kind of stuff, just smile at her and say, "Yeah, yeah, I got it. I just like hanging out with you." Something like that. Because she might test you because she's afraid of that label right now for some reason. But you can win her heart, and that phrase can be misused because you shouldn't have to win, but I won't get into that. But you can win her heart again by starting over. And so, in a situation like this, and I'm glad for this question because I can mention that that's a great thing to do in a situation like that. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, I can't really improve on anything you just said. I totally agree with you, and it adds an element of attraction from strength. So if you're actually living like you're dating somebody, you get the time, you get the interaction, but without the label. Well, why do you need the label? It shows more respect. I mean, self-respect. It shows more strength, right? You imagine a confident man or a confident woman. We're just enjoying that moment. It's a sense of, hey, I enjoy time with you. You enjoy time with me. I don't need to be worried about next week. Why would I be worried about next week? I kind of anticipate that we're going to enjoy spending time together next week too. So I don't have to get something locked down for the future, which sometimes triggers that expectation, that fear of, okay, now I have to live up to a word. I have to live up to a label. So just take the experience, and then like part of falling in love, you get to feel is when you consistently feel heard, known, safe, accepted. If you consistently make somebody feel those things, but not in a way that like lowers your sense of respect because you're at their beck and call, then that's how you get people to fall in love with you. So take the experience, take the interaction. It can be a really powerful thing.
Yeah, and I will also say I'm not against labels. Okay, I like the labels. I think that there's something valuable in being able to have that moment where you two put the label on it. All I'm saying is don't get in a hurry, don't force it, and keep in mind that you can be this thing you want to be. You can be this couple or whatever without having the label. And so it's not something you want to try to put on too soon. It's better to wait a little bit than to do it too soon. And especially in this situation where you're talking about guided retrieval, um, or guided reunion, I go back and forth. Uh, you don't have to put a label on it. You can just start dating her again and go from there. That's what I'd do if I were you. All right. So Jason says we met 4 months of no contact. And at first it was good. But then we talked about what happened to us. I walked away to avoid an argument, and she said, "If I walk, you won't hear from me again. It got really bad. Should I move on?" Okay, I'm making sure I understand what you're saying. We met, and then it says 4 months of no contact. So I don't know exactly what that part means, but maybe you're just saying after the breakup, there was no contact. But the big part of that is you you walked away to avoid an argument, and she said, "If I walk, you won't hear from me again. It got really bad. Should I move on?" So I'm curious how long ago that was, because if that's a week ago and she walked away, you have to let her go, at least give her 2.5 months or something like that before you even think about casually reaching out, if you ever do. So there's that part. The other thing was, should you move on? It got really bad, you said. Should you move on? If you mean by it got really bad that there was yelling and there was I hate to use this phrase, but sometimes it's accurate, emotional abuse, it sounds to me like you feel like there was something that happened bad enough that it warrants moving on, or you wouldn't have asked me. So my answer probably would be that there's something better for you out there. There's somebody who will treat you better and won't act that way, and won't be manipulative. The whole "if I walk away, I'm not coming back" thing. I mean, she's going to talk about it like that and project this almost it's similar to threatening the relationship. So there are 4 billion women on the planet, my friend, maybe 5 billion. I don't even know. There's a lot. And
there's billions.
Yeah,
More
guarantee
than
there's
10.
some out
Yeah.
there that will appreciate having you and won't manipulate you and will be thrilled to be with you, and won't be saying that if they walk away, they'll be, gone forever. They'll be saying, let's work this out. Let's figure this out like mature adults. So I'd say move on.
Yeah.
Don't look back. All right. Ex deleted pictures on Instagram after 2 months of no contact. What does that mean? A lot of times that means there's somebody else. I'm just being honest. It means there's somebody else, and they don't want this person to be like, why do you still have pictures of your ex-boyfriend on Instagram? That's oftentimes what that means. It can also mean that they want someone else, and so they're trying to move on with their life and, have a fresh start and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean you can't get her back, but you said it had been 2 months. I would probably give it another 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then I would do the casual reach out and just kind of say, I was thinking about you the other day, wanted to see how you're doing, see how it goes, go from there. But when she deletes pictures, it's usually because there's someone who doesn't want to see them, or at least she wants there to be a guy who doesn't want to see pictures of another guy on her Instagram. So that's at least a possibility. I know that I hate saying that because I know that's not something you want to hear, but it's a good possibility. So reaching out with a casual text a couple weeks is not the worst thing in the world if you are kind of in this point where you don't really know what that means. And if you don't want to do that, then I would start the healing process as best you can and work on moving on. And Rex is really good at helping, with that, with you kind of getting over some of the trauma of the breakup. And you can book a call with him at myexbackcoach.com and just click on anxiety, and you'll see like coaching, and you can book a call and get on his calendar. Can you have something on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's one of those, it's easy to say, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it one way or the other because you can't know. But there are some things you can't push out of your mind. You can't decide not to think about something. So it's going to enter your mind. She just put pictures down. It's going to hurt. And I agree with Lee. Sadly, it's usually a bad sign. But I'll also say, and I'm sure the same is true for Lee, you've seen it where it could actually sometimes be, it's almost like a second grader throwing a spitball into somebody else's hair because they don't want to say, hey, I want you to notice me. So it's kind of a safe, negative way to get attention. Sometimes I've seen that happen. Normally it's not a good sign, so I'm not trying to like sugarcoat it. It's usually a bad sign. But sometimes it can mean that they're trying to reinforce themselves. Like, I broke up with them, but maybe they're wrestling with the idea that they don't really know how to move on without you. I've seen it a lot of times where they'll take those pictures down, and later you find out, Well, I was trying not to think about you because every time I saw you on my social media profile, it made me start to second guess what I was doing. So again, not trying to get false hope. I agree with Lee. It's not a good sign. It normally points to another person being involved. Sometimes it means something else. It's just one of those questions that as soon as the thought hits your mind, I'm not trying to say push it out because that's very difficult to do, but just acknowledge I couldn't possibly know what that means. So I'm going to move forward just accepting that I don't know what it means. So I'm going to keep trying to do no contact, building my own strength, building my own sense of attraction, and try not to worry about questions I couldn't possibly really know the answer to without more details.
All right. So Cameron says, my ex-girlfriend and I were on a break, and I was being too needy. During the break, she got drunk and high and cheated on me and broke up with me because she felt guilty. I've been in no contact for a month now. Broke up with me because she felt guilty.
Yeah.
So you were on a break and you're being too needy. Okay. Notice that happened and then she cheated on you. Okay. So neediness, it's okay to need someone. When we use the phrase needy, usually we're talking about when basically you're showing obsession and you would be basically trying to get the other person to convince you that they love you by telling them that you don't think that they love you, which is not the way to go about that. And maybe you're trying to push for the relationship to be back and, hug me, love me, kiss me. Why are you not kissing me? It can kind of descend into madness to where it just drives the other person crazy. And I assume you were doing some kind of version of that. So then the order of things is that after that, she cheated on you and then broke up with you, claiming she did it because she felt guilty. Um, yeah, that's not why that's not why she broke up with you. If she loved you and wanted to be with you, and she really slept with this guy only because she got drunk, she would be on her knees crying and begging you to forgive her. She wouldn't break up with you because she felt guilty. She would beg you not to leave her. So that's the first problem right there. Is you've unfortunately kind of got the situation wrong. You're going by what she says, but she's lying. She's lying to you. And you've been in no contact for a month now. Good. I suggest you stay in no contact and don't ever contact her again till she reaches out and begs for your forgiveness. Ken?
I totally agree. Nobody breaks up with you because they feel guilt over cheating on you. I've seen it sometimes where they'll hide the fact that they cheated on you and break up because they're too afraid you'll find out and they can't live with the shame. But I've never heard of anybody legitimately breaking up with you because they cheated on you. It's just not how it works.
So sorry about that, Cameron. I know that hurts, man, but that's my honest opinion, and I think that's right. All right, no contact for 1.5 months. Building off the accountability letter, I didn't support her goals and tell her about the big future I really want. I want to send a letter saying time apart has shown me my mistake. All right, I'll read it again. No contact for 1.5 months. Building off the accountability letter, I didn't support her goals and tell her about the big future I really want. I want to send her a letter saying time apart has shown me my mistake. Okay, so you didn't support her goals. I wonder what those goals are. Um, if her goal was to move to Las Vegas and you're in Alabama, I don't think I'd support those goals either. So I kind of wonder what the goals are. And you didn't tell her about the big future you wanted. So that kind of tells me she said she didn't feel like you wanted a future with her or something. And that's where I assume when she broke up with you that you would have said some of that. I'm just wondering that before I say, hey, yeah, send her a letter. I mean, if you didn't say that, if you didn't say that you have a future plan for the two of you, maybe it's marriage and, whatever. If you didn't tell her that, you could write a letter and tell her that. But it's tough to say, mostly because did she really mean what she said, or is she just giving you an excuse to break up with you? And that's so hard to know. If we were on a coaching call, I'd have a lot of questions and I could probably get a little more certain with my answer. But if you feel like that's really the reason, like you can look back and you feel like, man, I should have said that I wanted to, a future with her, which, what did she say? Did she say she sees a future with you? Did she ask you about that? So there's all kinds of questions that I have before I would say do an accountability letter. But if she did say some of those things and you didn't say them back, or even if you might have said, I'm not sure, or something like that, then that could make sense. I prefer to do those things in person, but if you can't get to them, you can't get to them. And a handwritten letter is such a novelty these days that that could be a positive thing. So I would think about what I said there as far as what you did and did not do and what happened and didn't happen, and go from there as far as deciding on the accountability letter. We'll get to another one here. Born to be savage. Some of these I'm trying to figure out still how to do all this. So I hope you guys are patient with me on that. I think I got to go the other direction now. I think we caught up to about almost there. Ken, why don't you juggle for him or something while we're waiting? All right. So Felicia says, my ex dumped me after 7 months. He ignored my texts. I apologize for my part. He told his friends he will never talk to me again. Tough guy. He didn't block me on Instagram or phone. Why can't he tell me to move on? Or he's moving versus ignoring me. So you said you apologize for your part. So I mean, I'm curious what your part is. Um, but if you're wanting to know about how to pursue this, I think you said, trying to see if you said you were in no contact, because you should be, or at least you should have been for at least 2-3 months. But he didn't block you. That's good. But he said that to your friends, oh yeah, I'll never talk to her again. He was trying to get that message to you. By the way, Ken, somebody here says you're an outstanding coach. Your advice people You advise people through the most difficult relationship situations. Honest, great listener, and incredibly knowledgeable.
Oh, thank you very much.
They
On
must have
that
gone to
complimentary note,
dotheloveme.com, booked a call with you. So,
I'm sorry.
Felicia,
I need to double check my power is about to shut off. I
all
apologize.
right.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I will be right back.
yeah, you go and I'll answer this question. All right, Felicia. So, he dumped you, and so here's the thing. So, the fact that he said, the reason I'm like pausing on this is just him saying that to his friends. Um, it sounds like something that would be said by like, a 10th grader or something, that he's telling his friends, that, and that it would come back to you because he probably knew that it would. And that makes me question some things. But we all also have moments where we slip up and we act like a lesser version of ourselves, or we don't act our age. So maybe that's all that it was. You kind of have to look at that and determine if he's worth you making effort. But you would start with no contact. Since he broke up with you, when the other person breaks up with you, you go into no contact. So you said that he ignored your text, which tells me maybe you didn't do no contact, but you were trying to apologize. So there's going to have to be enough space, enough time to where he can think that you are strong enough to stay away and move on. And then you just have to decide if you're going to reach out or not. I don't know what your part is in this, but the fact that he said that to your friends, trying to jab at you, sounds like he has some things to apologize for. So this is one of the situations where I would suggest that you not be the one to reach out to him, that you just stay in no contact. And if he doesn't come back, take that as a sign, maybe painful, but that it's probably best that you move on and that you don't try to get him back. Oh, here we go. We were together 4 years. This is from Lori. We were together 4 years. He started acting very distant. Oh, wait, did I already read that one? I told him not to contact me now. I'm not so sure I made the right decision. Yeah, I don't think we read that one. All right. So I broke up with him because I knew it's what he really wanted. Oh, we did read that one. Yes, we did. All right. This is from Eldridge. That was Tiger Woods' name, wasn't it? Eldridge Woods.
Yeah.
I accepted the breakup at first, but asked her if we could fix it a few days later. She got furious. That's interesting. I wasn't abusive, and I told her I understood. 8 months no contact now. Still don't know why she got upset. I don't either. That's weird. And that's probably something that, I mean, it's been 8 months of no contact, so based on her response, I mean, that would be something that would really turn me off. If somebody got upset when you actually said furious. Yeah, she got furious. Just the fact that you were kind of touching base with her after the breakup when you're in a lot of pain, and she ought to have the maturity to understand that and actually be bothered to some degree by your pain. Like I've talked about in some videos. I have one video, how to know if your ex is a narcissist. And one of the things I say is a narcissist doesn't have empathy. Like if you are normal and someone is hurting to some degree, because we couldn't live our lives and function if we constantly felt pain, because there's a lot of pain in the world. But to some degree, you hurt for that person. You empathize. You can see yourself in that situation and what that would be like, and you hurt for them and with them a little bit. If they don't have that, you're talking about misery to be with them. And the fact that, I mean, based on what you're telling me, I mean, all you did was ask her if you could fix it, and she got furious. I mean, just to use a technical term, that's really weird. And I'm not going to say that, oh, she's a narcissist, because that's an easy bandwagon to hop on. But if she gets furious when all you're doing is say, can you fix it? How can you fix it? Again, I don't know the details. I mean, you said you weren't abusive. I don't know what was going on, but in most situations, if someone says, can I fix it, or how can I fix it? They could say it's too late or something like that, but to get furious at you it's odd to me. I don't know the situation, and if you deserved it, if you were pretty bad to her, then she has a right to get furious. But if you're just trying to get your girlfriend back, I would expect to see some empathy from her and even some pity, before that. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm thinking one of three different situations. One is a narcissist, when they do break up with you and you've kind of served your purpose, and then there's a richer supply, and there's a greener grass yard somewhere, then if you keep chasing them, they can go from understanding to rude or furious pretty quickly, because you're not doing what you're supposed to. They look at people as like resources. You have a role to play. If your role's been done, you're excused. Stop bothering them. So they can kind of get that furious reaction. Another one is, and I'm not saying it's any one of these, I don't know, but borderline can do that too. Once they've devalued you and split and rejected you, then if you keep after them, they can get pretty furious. Sometimes they can have, depending on the subset, they can have a pretty vicious temper. And if it'll strike you as how different the two personalities inside of one person. So if normally it's a loving, understanding, vulnerable, wounded, very intimate relationship, like unusual closeness, and then in a short period of time, not only break up with you, disconnect from you, but get furious when you try to push it, that can be one of, I would not say that's a sign that she's borderline. I'd say it's one little indicator that you might want to have a conversation. And the other one is if maybe you were just pushy. And the truth is, I've seen situations, I've talked to people that in the first call, you just love that person. You know what they're going through. You give them some encouragement, and then you might get 187 emails from them in the next 4 days, because they sometimes, and it's exceptional, the level that I'm talking about, but they just can't let it go. But if you ask them, they would say, well, I just asked her if we could fix it a few days later. So a lot of times they'll get a furious reaction because they haven't really let it go at all. And the other person just gets frustrated trying to find the right words to make you accept that really they're moving on and you should move on too. I'm not saying it's any one of those. I don't know. There's a lot of details, I'm sure, which you didn't have time to share.
All right, so MH says, broke up and no contact for 4 months. Not sure who broke up with who. Wasn't a terrible disagreement at the end, but hurtful. We were planning on moving in together. We're 48 and 60. He's avoidant. All right, so you're not sure who broke up with who. I'd love some more details on that. But, that's where if the other person really wanted to be with you, let me rephrase that. Sorry, not really. If the other person strongly wanted to be with you right now and they didn't need more time in the oven, we're baking that cake. Then who broke up with who doesn't matter so much because they were making some effort. If it was, as confusing to them, because usually if you don't know who broke up with who, then there wasn't a clean breakup. There was a disagreement, or there was, some situation where this other person's kind of walked away. But if there wasn't an official, like, I think we should break up, or I think we should see other people, or get out of my life, then you're both in the same boat. The ball's kind of in both courts. And so that's where I wouldn't put you at fault if you took the role of the dumper or the role of the dumped. But I'd like to know, you said no contact for 4 months. So here's the thing. Again, this is another situation where if you wanted to casually reach out, I wouldn't blame you. And you kind of, since it's 4 months later and you're asking, that tells me that you probably need to, for your own sake. Because is he being stubborn? Let's see if I'm getting the details right there. Yeah. So is he being stubborn? You're going to wonder. I don't know the answer for sure, but you're going to wonder that. And so that's where reaching out casually and kind of seeing what happens can be a good thing. So I would suggest you just kind of say something like, I was thinking about you the other day, or something reminded me of you, wanted to reach out, see how you're doing, and just kind of see how he responds. And I would really caution you on waiting to get back into some of these details that there was a disagreement, you said. Okay, there was a disagreement and it was 4 months ago. Let it go if you can. If he brings it up, okay. But sometimes people will they think, hey, we'll get back together by getting back into all that crap that caused the breakup. I remember this one couple, and I'm not saying people shouldn't go to counseling or seek the help of psychologists at all. Okay. But she described it to where they're separated, they were married, and they were only seeing each other once a week at this counseling session. And the counselor wanted them to every week wanted to go into another issue where they struggled. And she said, all we do when we get in this session is we argue and we fight and we have a witness. That's pretty much what happens. And I said, so your only interaction is negative? She said, yes. And that's, I actually said, your decisions are your own. I'm not responsible for your decisions. But if it were me, I'd stop the counseling for a little bit and I'd say, let's just go to dinner and let's have a few rules. One, we're not going to argue or get into these issues right now. We're going to take a break. We'll get to them. Don't worry. We'll get to them. Maybe one at a time, 2 months from now. But for now, it's off the table. We're going to laugh. We're going to talk, even if we're mad at each other. And we're just going to have a good time. Let some of that healing happen. Have some good experiences with the other person. And so, we're talking about 4 months you haven't talked. There's no situation here I can see where you need to bring them up yet. You want to have a positive experience with them. Maybe you two do get coffee. Just laugh and talk and catch up like old friends. Don't worry, you won't be friend zoned. But wait on those issues. Wait. You probably would be more likely to bring them up too soon than too late. So that's what I would tell you. But yeah, you're okay to just reach out and say, I was thinking about you, just wanted to see how you're doing. Real simple. That's what I would do. Ken?
Oh, yeah, I love what you said. And there's a couple of clients I have right now that are actually implementing it. And it works beautifully, especially if you had a really good, solid relationship to begin with. It just kind of deteriorated or you had that big fight. the important thing is to reestablish that sense of exposure to one another, interaction with each other, where you both walk away feeling good. You both walk away feeling like you didn't disappoint, you didn't depress, you didn't let the other one down. You're just kind of letting each other remember what drew you together in the first place. And the other thing, if you're not sure who did the breaking up, then by reaching out, like Lee said, and just kind of getting that clarification, it doesn't mean pursue. It doesn't mean, write a 7-page tear-stained letter trying to pour your heart out, but just a quick message to try to get some clarification. A lot of times you're reintroducing you back into their thoughts. So sometimes even if that initial response isn't what you'd hoped for, it can actually get them to be thinking about you again. And it's like you can build some momentum just with that reaction. Even if you don't get the response you want, but you handle that response with the same kind of confidence of going back into no contact.
Yeah. So to clarify something Ken said about getting clarification on who broke up with who, you're probably thinking, well, how do I do that? That's not something I would do right away. Like I would reach out casually, but then maybe, what you could do is you could simply say, I liked when we were together. I liked hanging out with you. I liked being with you. Maybe we could get coffee sometime. You'd be surprised how that can open the door, because he may be thinking you were the one who broke up with him, and so you don't have to get into those arguments again, but you can kind of,
absolutely.
Yeah. You can kind
and
of,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it sound like that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I knew you did.
And what I meant by clarification, I meant you can get clarification just by, like what Lee said. So how have you been? Or a quick warm comment. I'm not recommending either that you dive back into the issue that caused the break. But what I mean by clarification is see how he or she is going to respond if you just start to try to have that interaction again. That's really the only kind of clarification you need at the beginning anyway.
Yeah. So, hey, we're not in a rush. We are getting to the questions. We're trying to go one at a time here. So feel free to, continue to ask. We're not about to rush out. So, because we do want to get to these. All right. So got broken up with and went no contact 30 days ago. She still watches my Instagram stories. Do I keep posting and show her I'm not hurt? Our relationship was awesome, but I display weakness toward the end. All right. So you got broken up with and went no contact 30 days ago. She still watches your stories. Okay. Do I keep posting and show her I'm not hurt? Our relationship is awesome. Okay. So first of all, when they're watching your stories really regularly like that, I like stopping, cutting her off, just like, don't let her feel some of that fake intimacy. And, you can call some of that radio silence. And I also talk about how it can be good to show that you're happy and you have friends and, you're having a great life, and social media can do that. But do some of that and then go dark. Let her wonder about you, because, I talk about the stages an ex goes through. And the first stage is relief because they've gotten the breakup over with. But the next stage we want them to get into is curiosity. And that stage, they can stay in for a while, and you want them to have as much curiosity as possible. So if you see that she's just watching one story after another, stop doing them for a while. At least change your frequency, because we do want her to have as much missing in her life as we can with you not being there anymore. So yeah, I would stop doing that, and I would do just some total silence, no posts anywhere else either for a little bit of time. Let her kind of wonder about you, because nothing says that you're strong enough to stay away and that you can move on like disappearing like that to where you just go silent, because it's like you don't want her even thinking, was he thinking about me when he posted this? If you can take all that away, sometimes that's a good thing. And so, the good thing is that if you have been posting a lot of things, you can do that now. So for those of you who are wondering that, if you've been posting a lot, you haven't messed up, but you can also yank the carpet out. A thumbs up on that one, Ken?
Yeah, I like it, and I'm glad you mentioned that both routes can work, because sometimes it depends on the situation. If you took a beating if there was a lot of pleading and a lot of chasing and a lot of everything else, then sometimes it's like it's just going to depend on the individual situation. I agree with obviously what you said. The radio silence can be very effective because again, they're used to you being on the porch and suddenly you're gone. And they don't know what you're doing. It can be very effective. Other times, if you've taken a real severe emotional beating and you chased and pursued, then being able to get a little portal into your life and see that, oh, they seem to actually be thriving. They seem to be, did they go on a mountain hike? Did they go on a bike ride? Did they go to the beach? So it just depends. You can read the situation and adjust. Both of them can get you that kind of reaction that you want and keep that closing the gap happening. But no contact, silence, and just removing yourself from somebody's life can be one of those principles that's just really hard to imitate in any other way.
So LK said that the videos on timelines and stages are really helpful. I appreciate you saying that. And they're talking about, there's a video I have that's called, I think it's something about how you and your ex will have can have different timelines during the breakup. Ken, if you'll look up that exact video, if you don't mind, on my channel while I go to this next question, maybe we can get that, because that is a good one.
Stages and timelines of a breakup.
Timelines of a breakup, something like that. If you don't see anything obvious, we'll just move on from it. But all right. Oops. All right. So December, after 8 months, due to my insecurities, I think he's like splitting is what he meant to say. I begged. She was blocked. She blocked me, accept email. I sent an apology. She replied saying she moved on. They have split now. So I guess there's somebody else. Is it over with us? Well, so first of all, her saying she's moved on. There's that phrase that I just don't know that people have a good definition of. I mean, if I was defining it, it would be I've reached a point where I want something else for my life. And that's the best way I know how to define moving on. But Coach Ken just posted that video, stages getting ready. So that's not it. Thanks for looking that up, but that's not the one she's talking about. But you know what? Since I know which one it is, I'll look it up when you're doing your answer to this one. But yeah, so her saying she moved on. I think that though she was with somebody else, because you said they have split, and you're asking is it over. So hey, she's single now. So my question is, did she leave you for somebody else? Because you kind of have to have your deal breaker, because you have to ask yourself, is it likely to be able to survive? If she knows that she left you for somebody else, now you're wanting to get back together with her, is she going to be able to respect you to the point that it won't happen again? Is she going to be able to be attracted to you now? Now, if we're talking about marriage, that's a different thing. But if we're just talking about dating and she's done this, it's up to you. And if she did not cheat, if she simply thought she wanted to break up, that she wanted something else, and then she ended up meeting this person and they dated for a little bit, that's different. I would still give it some time, because you want her to reach out to you. In this situation, I usually say 3 months minimum, no contact from the point of the two of them breaking up, at least. And usually I try to tell you to go as long as you can, because if she has to get over him a little bit, it's going to be more difficult to win her over anyway. So, that's what I'd say to that. Ken, if you want to give your answer. Oh, there it is. The video is called Timeline Comparison for the Dumper and the Dumpy. It's on my channel. It's called Timeline Comparison for the Dumper and the Dumpy. And it does really kind of help you see the universe that's in your ex's mind during the breakup, and kind of what can happen and what can be going on, and that kind of thing. All right.
And I was going to add to what you were saying. A lot of times, if they broke up with that other person, sometimes you kind of see the door crack, so you try to kick it open. But if you've come in and fled this other person with a sense of importance, just because they've broken up with the other person, sometimes you can actually accidentally sustain their ego so that they can stay in the other relationship and fight for it longer. So I agree with Coach Lee. I wouldn't I wouldn't just make it seem like I'm just waiting at the chance. Again, you don't want to be on the porch. Hey, I saw you broke up. What about me?
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Oh yeah,
It's not attractive.
you definitely don't want to look like you were waiting it out. That's that's for sure. X and I worked together. After 3 times of me saying we could be friends when he asked, fourth time he asked, I said I was happy being coworkers and didn't need to be friends. He said, okay, now block on social media. All right. So fourth time he asked, I said I was happy being coworkers and didn't. Okay. So he broke up with you. I was trying, that one was a little confusing to me. And you told him you were happy being coworkers and didn't need to be friends. He said, okay, now he's blocked you. All right. So blocking you is usually it's a little bit of a petty thing to do. It's like, man, they took all that effort to block you, which shows you really had an impact. You really had an effect on this person. I mean, they're going to block you. Wow. I
They want
mean,
your attention a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think, the people that I block are like, I don't know, the love spell people on my channel. And, if I think somebody has like a mental problem or something, I might block them. But just blocking people like that, it's just, to me, it's just not me. But also, it usually either they are trying to show you something like, well, I'll show you, and I would stick with what you're doing, because if you said after 3 times of me saying we could be friends when he asked, so he was coming to you wanting to make sure you weren't too far gone, and now you kind of called his bluff on that one. I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, I think I would just leave it as is, not mention he blocked you, not show any awareness or response to it, and see what happens. Give him a few months. I'm also going to tell you that, he doesn't sound like the most mature person to ever graduate kindergarten. So keep that one in mind. What do you think, Ken?
Yeah, it's funny because this is different from one of the first questions about after 3 months they blocked me. Well, that suggests that they found somebody else. That's the most likely. In this one, it's almost like you got punished. It hints. I'm not going to say it's a definite. It hints at a manipulator. Hey, I thought you said you wanted to be friends. No, I'm fine just being coworkers. Really? Well, block. It's like a childish response. Like you're being punished now because you don't want to be his friend. Well, boom. But it's really kind of a weak move. It's similar to like, when you were in high school and you would hear two guys in each other's face and one would say, I'm not scared of you. Well, if you're not scared of me, why are you telling me? If he's really okay living without you and he doesn't need to be your friend and it doesn't bother him that you just want to be coworkers, well, then why would he block you? He's emotionally trying to punish you because you didn't give the action or the answer that he wanted. So it's like, well, let him throw his tantrum. It actually says that you're in a stronger position than you might feel like.
Seriously, you can book a call with this man. You can talk to him.
And
DoTheyLoveMe.com.
and the greater thing is I'm friends with Lee. So you could talk to somebody who's friends with Lee.
All right. Almost 2 years no contact. She studied a year abroad and is now back in town. Is there still a chance, or is it too late to break no contact? There's still following and checking on social media, and how do I do it? All right. So my question is, it was one of those things where she's like, I'm about to go out of the country for 2 years or a year or whatever. So we should probably just break up, because if that's the situation, I'd probably, if this person is still within you, you're still just feeling like you want to be with her, I'd reach out. If anything, I mean, it doesn't sound like you two, it doesn't sound like there was like this awful, horrible breakup where you wanted to, like, claw each other's faces. And if she was gone for 2 years out of the country, maybe I don't know. That sounds like something somebody in the early 20s would do. Studied abroad. Okay, so college. Yeah, you should. I would reach out and I would just say, heard you were back in the States, or wherever you are. Heard you were back in Europe, whatever. Um, Wanted to see how you're doing. Wanted to hear about your adventures. Want to have coffee? Or let's get coffee and you tell me about it. Because it sounds like you two didn't just end on horrible terms. So I would do something like that. Um, I think that'd be a good thing for you to do. Curb is the name that I see there. So that's what I would do. And by the way, I was asked about this whole red pill thing. The kind of the men going their own way and some of that stuff. Okay, so both men and women have the ability to be total horses, asses, and that's just kind of how life is. There are men out there who have decided that they're not going to marry women, they're not going to be romantic with women or have long-term relationships, and they really seem to be evangelistic about it too, like every other man should do that. When there are also lots of men who've had terrific experiences with women who are good to them, just like there are women who've had experiences with men who are awful to them, and there are women who've had experiences with men who are good to them. So I don't ascribe to the one size fits all. I like the idea of taking a red pill and seeing the world as it really is. A lot of people do not see the world as it really is, and they are just kind of going along like sheep. But as far as, should men swear off women because there are some bad women out there? No. Should women swear off men because there are some bad men out there? No. I like to approach it on a case by case basis. There are some women who you men should swear off and never talk to or be around. And there are some men who you women you should never talk to or be around. But to totally dismiss every woman on the planet or to totally dismiss every man on the planet is not something that I suggest. So that's my answer to red pill, even though I do know some of the red pill guys and red pill people, and they have some good points. But I don't paint with that broad of strokes. Coach Lee has helped me. So grateful, thankful, and humbled to have these videos as resources. Well, thank you, LK. It's very encouraging. We'll appreciate hearing that. We definitely want to help. All right. I think, oh, I got to go this way. Okay, there we go. All right, Coach Lee and Coach Ken, been 3 months since my ex long distance relationship boyfriend left me via text saying, I don't deserve you. Didn't chase or beg, but responded saying he didn't and shamed him. 3 months, no contact. When and how should I reach out? So he didn't break up with you because he didn't feel like he deserved you. Okay, so try to think of some famous celebrity who you think is very attractive. So, for the ladies, it might be like a younger Brad Pitt or whatever. For the men, I don't know, some Sports Illustrated swimsuit model or something. Some attractive person. If they were all of a sudden interested in you, are you going to reject them and say, "Oh, I don't deserve you. You're too handsome. You're too pretty. I just don't deserve." Yeah, because that's how we operate, right? The gorgeous person comes over to us. "Oh, I don't deserve you. Get away from me. I don't want to date you because I don't deserve you." It's just not how it works. We have eyes. We were made to have physical attraction. We were made to have emotional attraction and intellectual attraction. And when we feel that, we don't ever say, I am just too attracted to you to be with you. Get away from me. That's just not how it works. So he lied to you. He does not believe he doesn't deserve you. It's interesting you said that he didn't. I kind of like that. 3 months of no contact. When and how should I reach out? All right. Well, if you want to reach out, just like with other long distance relationship issues, the distance probably affected it somehow, lowered attraction. And you can typical no contact protocol, which is stay away as long as you can, ideally a minimum of 2.5 months. And if you just still feel like you have to contact them and you do, and you approach it casually, the issue with long distance is you can't say, hey, let's grab coffee. That's kind of why it's long distance. But you do try to have a casual conversation. If it starts to get to the point where it seems like that they are comfortable in talking with you and they're talking with you and things are going pretty well, you know, it's great if they can know that at least you're open to being in that area with them. Now, the problem is that right now it probably doesn't mean as much to him because attraction's fallen. So that's why I say oftentimes that long distance relationships are difficult, and that the only hope it really has long term is if you bridge that gap in geography and you two get in the same town so that you can actually be together. But if he does have any, if he does want to be with you, if there is some of that left in him, if he's curious, you know, at least to pursue a future or thinks he might be, then he needs to know. And that may have been something that you talked about. You know, you may have said you're willing to go up there. I don't know, but I'm just telling you that going forward, if you do start talking again, you need to start talking about that because it's not like the local relationship where I'm like, you know, hey, just have a good time together, start over, reattract this person. You don't have that luxury. It kind of needs to be out front fairly early that something needs to be done if we're going to have a future. That's the nature of long distance relationships. The fact that he gave you that excuse that I don't deserve you nonsense, you know, once again, you don't break up with people who you think are too good for you. You want to be you want to be with them. So he's just saying something he thinks you won't argue with, or you don't know. You know, it's one of those things that's so ethereal, practically. I mean, I don't deserve you. There's nowhere to go from there. You know, that's why he said
Yeah.
it. So, Ken,
Yeah, well, it's almost crueler because it's harder to argue with, and they're telling you something that your heart wants to believe. Like they love me so much, they don't deserve me. Oh, so it makes you feel almost like that desperate connection again. But they're breaking up with you, so then it makes the understanding is like at a 2, and now the pain is like at a 10, and that can create that obsessiveness where you keep going over and over in your mind. Okay, well, I got to make sense of this. And then if you believe them, you try to pursue them. No, I appreciate you telling me I don't deserve you, but I really want you. So then you start really trying to like undo the untrue damage, or trying to like answer the excuse that they gave when that really wasn't the underlying cause to begin with. And I agree with Lee too. Obviously, this is not a big secret about no long distance. It's just that a lot of times for a healthy long term relationship, you need at least two things. It's like a common sense of moral code and a shared life goal to some degree. It's really hard to have a shared life goal if you're living too far apart. I mean, how are you supposed to actually, share one life that's hopefully more intriguing and interesting and challenging when you're together if you're not together? So you're automatically starting off with the sabotage.
all right. Next question is from Guy. He says, "Hi, it's been 6 months, but she wanted to find herself. I do the no contact. She reached out many times, but I found out and exposed her lying about no sleeping with others after we ended what to do next." Okay, so she lied and she did sleep with others. Um, she wanted to find herself. You know, I'm curious about what she did when you called her on her lying and her sleeping with others. Um, and the whole bit about going to find herself. I, you probably know what I think about that based on some of the things that I've said. You know, it's just a lot of times what will happen is attraction falls and they think, I want to break up with this person. What can I do to explain myself where I don't feel guilty or I feel as little guilt as possible, and where they won't argue with me and make it hard for me to leave, and where I can maybe like walk away before they fully grasp all this. And I'm like, kind of like, okay, you got it, you got it. And then I'm going to run off and you're going to be sitting there trying to figure this out. And I'm far away before it finally hits you what just happened. So That's kind of what it is when they say, I'm going to find myself. Um, the great relationships, you find yourself in each other. You support yourself by supporting the other person who supports you right back. Um, we relationships, whereas they should not be our sole source of fulfillment because that's obsession. But relationships are amazingly supportive things that we get to live life to its fullest because we have the support of this person. We have a companion. We feel love. We feel commitment. We feel a sense of having an identity with this person. Now, not in this person. In other words, you're not your identity is not wrapped up in this person, but it's with this person because now you're saying we are a couple. We do things together. We make decisions together. We don't make these independent decisions because I have this other person in my life who I value, and I'm going to um, go with them. I'm not going to run out in front of them. At the same time, I do have my own life and I do have my own mission, but this person is with me. And so things that I do, I consider them in those things and we talk. And so when you say I've got to go find myself, what that means is that you see yourself somewhere else other than in this relationship. So I'm going to go find myself because I'm out there somewhere else and it's not with you. And unfortunately, that's what that means. And so when I hear stuff like that, and especially if they say, "Oh, don't worry, I don't want to be with anybody else. I just got to go find myself. I'm not interested in being in any other relationship." That's not true. Usually, those people are the fastest ones to hop in another relationship or just hop into casual, sex with somebody or something like that. And that's what she did. And I hate it for you because it sounds like, you were hurt and you thought, I'm going to give her what she wants, which is what you should do, because you can't force someone to be with you. That's why all the dictators of the world are wanted dead by at least some people. Um, you did the right thing. She goes off, and then she violated what she said to you, and she lied, and you called her out on it. So I'm guessing that didn't go too well. You're wanting to know what to do next. So, first of all, you have to decide if you truly want to try to be with someone who broke up with you, lied to you, and was physical with someone else when, she made the agreement to you that she wouldn't be. Now, I don't know how that worked. I don't know if you kind of said, promise me you won't sleep with anybody else. And she just was trying to get rid of you or something. And so she said, okay, whatever. But if she volunteered it and it was kind of her, she was the one who initiated the statement, you know, we're starting to talk about a character problem. And we all do things where we lose our minds temporarily, but is she a good person doing a bad thing or a bad person doing a bad thing? Is a question that, you know, Joe Beam, I've heard him say that a lot. That's something that you have to consider. And based on what you're telling me, I tend to lean toward that there's a character problem here. And I want to know if we can get past you feeling hurt and lost, if you really want to be with her. Because if you're thinking, I want to be with her in a changed version of her, unfortunately, that's not reality right now. Or else she would be on her hands and knees begging you, telling you she's changed, and then it might be believable. But at the moment, sure doesn't sound that way. And of course, I don't know exactly what's going on at the moment. You just said you found out about it. You exposed her. You told her you knew about lying about sleeping with others. So there was more than one. It sounds like. Um, Guy, I wish for you. I wish that you could move on. I really do. As difficult as that is, I wish you could say it's going to hurt, but it's best for me to move on. If you just absolutely cannot do that, I would try to do no contact as long as you could. Based on what you're telling me, we're talking a long time. Like if you don't hear from her, 6 months of you not initiating. And then if you do decide to initiate and talk to her, you need to see some change as far as she is definitely wanting to be with you. And of course, I talk about how in certain situations, you kind of casually get back into things. This is quite a bit different. So I don't suggest you try to put the label on right away. That's not what I'm saying. But once you start talking with her, if you start noticing that she's still talking about finding herself and she's, doesn't seem like she's uh, got stable ground underneath her, emotionally speaking, I would see those as warning signs. I'm not saying she should be saying, I know 100% I want to be with you. That's what I know. And let's do that, because she probably doesn't know that right now. And that's okay. But what I'm telling you is if you're still sensing some of the same person who would say, I need to go find myself. And then she went off and did that after saying she wouldn't. And there were multiple people and all that, sometimes you have to embrace the decision in spite of the pain, because on the other side you're going to be better off. And it sounds like to me that you could be better off if you're just talking about trying to get her back, giving it 6 months, initiating, and kind of doing the same formula of saying, hey, I was thinking about you, wanted to see how you're doing. But in this situation, it's not something I would do, but that is what you can do. But I would be looking for those red flags, because she could be someone who we're talking about, like a borderline personality disorder or something like that, because it could also just simply be that she's not mature enough yet for a relationship. And that's what she meant when she said she was going to go find herself. Kim, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's funny in that one question, it actually plays out exactly what we've been saying with other similar situations where they give you that kind of empty box of reasons. It's not you, it's me. I need to go work on myself. I need to go find myself. I need to find a better version. That's usually something that a manipulator, or at least a dishonest person, says, so they not only get the time and space they need to go do what or whoever they want to do, they get admiration from the person that they're breaking up with. Because when somebody tells you that, a lot of times you say, thank you for being honest with me, but you just want some hope. But then she proved that that's normally the reason why somebody hands you a reason that doesn't make sense, by going to sleeping with other people. So within that one question, you kind of have that whole scenario that we've been talking about. When somebody gives you a reason that doesn't make sense, it's usually because it's not true.
All right. Okay, so we have a follow-up here. He came to my door an hour later saying it didn't feel right how we left it, that he loved me and understood why I didn't want him in my life, that he hopes I find healthy people, that he wouldn't bother me again. Okay, so that was the Stein person. I'm trying to remember the original details, but so I guess he came to your door after the breakup an hour later, and I didn't like how he left it. He understood why you didn't want him in his life, and then he hopes you find healthy people, that he wouldn't bother me again. Okay, so if he was the one, sounds, you know what, was Stein the person who was talking about at the office that she kind of turned down his friendship and said, I'm fine having a coworker or something like that, and that he said he wouldn't bother again? That might be the case.
Like the 4 times, and then did the
yeah. Either way, though, I mean, if this person wants to be with you, then this doesn't make sense. If he feels guilty, then this does make sense. I would still kind of do what we talked about and call his bluff on this whole thing. So
it's like I'm sorry, cut you off there.
No, you go ahead.
It's similar to the whole I need to go find myself, or that fake reason, except this time it's more from the victim perspective. Like, I'm sorry, I'll leave you alone. I hope you go find somebody that's healthy. I mean, that's a self-pitying, passive-aggressive manipulation.
It is.
So yeah. if he really wanted you to go find somebody healthy, and he's going to leave you alone after this, just leave you alone. But why does he do anything at all? If you're trying to back away from a sticky situation you feel bad about, you're not going to like block somebody on social media. You're not going to touch anything. You're not going to send any kind of signal. But if you want some pity and if you want to try to look like a good guy while you're trying to manipulate somebody, I'll leave you alone now. You should probably go find somebody better than me. Sad. It's like,
Yeah, and
okay.
if he wanted to be with you, so he would say, "I know, I'm sorry, but for this and that and stuff like that. But is there still a way?" But you know, the thing is that can change sometimes when attraction goes back up, and that's one of the reasons you stay away and you show you can stay away and that you're strong enough for time to pass, and we'll see what happens. All right, so this is um, I'm not sure the name. We'll just go with B because that's the first letter. So good friends with ex for 10 years, dated a year. She broke up, gave work reasons. Okay. I didn't go no contact at first. I was needy and clingy. Told me she feels nothing, blocked me. Now 30 days, no contact. Any way to reconcile? All right. So you were good friends with her for 10 years and you dated for a year. So you've got a big time history with her, which means you can actually, you have a greater capacity for no contact as far as it can take longer because you've been in her life for so long that there's a couple ways it can play out. So first is she can feel it more because she's used to you being in her life. But the other thing is that we tend to have the expectation or to take this other person for granted when they have been in our lives longer because they have established commitment. Even if you two were just friends for 10 years, you still were in her life and it did progress from friendship to something else. And so she feels a lot of commitment and at least stability that you will be in her world. So what I would tell you, first of all, is not to be afraid to stay away from her for a long time. You said it's been 30 days and I would definitely keep going to at least 3 months because of the history that you two have for so long. I'm also wondering. I'm wondering. You said she gave weak reasons, so let's talk about that for a minute. When somebody gives weak reasons, uh, if they're truly weak, because sometimes they could be weak to you and not weak to her. But if they are truly weak reasons, like for example, need to go find myself or I need to work on myself. If there are those kinds of reasons, then that's where you have to not call her on them being weak reasons. And what I mean by that is initially you don't misunderstand. Everybody who's hearing me, it's okay when they break up with you for you to push back some and say, "No, I want this. Why are you doing this? This doesn't make sense. That's why you're breaking up with me. That's weak." You can do that at the onset. What I'm saying is if you keep hyping those and bringing up those reasons and trying to fix those reasons or offer solutions, what happens, first of all, is if they just gave you the reason because they wanted to break up with you and they wanted to be easy, then what happens is since it wasn't a real reason to begin with, you're actually accomplishing nothing. And they are only getting annoyed because it wasn't a real reason to begin with. And so you can't, it's like trying to argue with a wall. It's not going to accomplish anything. Um, the other thing is that if they feel like breaking up with you is going to result in a lot of drama and a lot of frustration and that you're not going to leave them alone, they're less likely to try to get it back together with you or to entertain the idea because they figure we do get back together and I'd realize it wasn't what I wanted after all, and then I break up with them again, I have to go through all that drama again. And so it's important that you give them the breakup, that you just do your best to do that. Since you're on day 30 of no contact, it sounds like you're doing that. You've at least done that for 30 days. And that's great because most people, and what I want most of you to realize, most people don't do that and can't do that. That's one of the reasons it works so well is because most people, when they are broken up with, it is such a traumatizing experience that you become desperate. And it's sort of like when you're watching the horror movie and the monster's chasing these people and they go in the house and they run to the top story. And you're like, why'd you do that? There's nowhere to go except to jump out the window to your death or for the monster to come in and eat you. But they're desperate, they're emotional, and they're scared. And movement feels like it's good. And so that's why, you know, this woman told me one time that she wanted to talk to her ex-boyfriend. He wouldn't talk to her, and so she went over there because she still had an apartment key, and she got his cat, and she left a note and said, if you want to see your cat, if you want to see your cat, come talk to me. You know where I live. He called the police. And I remember being on the phone with her and I said, wait, you kidnapped his cat for ransom? She's like, well, I don't know if I'd call it that. And I'm like, well, I would. And apparently, the police thought that too, because he ended up, if I remember right, filing a restraining order on her, and he didn't press charges for her taking the cat. But I'm just saying, who in their right mind would do that? She wasn't able to think because she's traumatized and she's hurt and she's trying to get her ex back. So the fact you've done 30 days is different. And, you know, I she said she feels nothing. All right, well, that's not good, as you know. It's better for her to feel anger or even pain than it is to feel nothing. But at the same time, that also means that if you pull yourself away, she could start to feel some of that again. And that's really where we're going to know what's going to be going on, and what truly is going on inside of her is if you show her you're strong enough to stay away and that she could lose you. And that's where, in this case, based on everything you're telling me, when you're talking about a relationship this long, I usually suggest radio silence, where there's no social media posting. Uh, it's as though you've disappeared and she doesn't have any information on you. And I would do your best to stay away from her friends that you're not exceptionally close to, because I don't want her to be able to get any information on you. So she can't say, hey, have you seen him? How's he doing? As best you can, disappear. So she has no information, because we want to really sort of cold turkey make her lose the intimacy. And intimacy is when you know what's going on with each other, you know how you feel about things, you know how you feel about what's going on in the world, and that kind of stuff. And we want to take that away from her as quickly and as shockingly as possible. And so complete disappearance on your end would probably be a good thing in this situation. And I would give her at least 90 days. Hopefully you'll hear from her before then, but that's when you could reach out with something casual, because the good news is you two have 10 years of friendship. You have a lot more time than someone who doesn't have that kind of time in the past with them. And so that's when you could reach out and have been thinking about you and hoping you're doing all right. We should grab coffee. We should grab lunch, something like that. And you also have the ability to move much slower. So that's where, like the other person I was saying, you really need to look out for red flags. You know this person pretty well. So I'm not suggesting you have to do that. I would try to do like I recommended earlier, where you start over, like you're dating her again. And again, this is only after 90 days of radio silence where you disappear, and then you reach out casually. And you do, if she's interacting with you, things are going pretty well. You say something like, we should get coffee. When are you free to get together? Or let's grab coffee and catch up. And if things are going well, you slowly start to suggest more things that you do together, and you just start dating her again without telling her that's what you're doing, without talking about the relationship or the issues or anything like that. And you win her back, just like if you were dating someone new. You're not going to be asking them on the second date if they see a future with you, or do they see the two of you being together. You're not going to do those kind of things. You're focusing on building attraction, having a wonderful experience with her, and trying to kind of determine how she sees you, what things are going on. You're both kind of doing this. And that's what I would definitely suggest that you do in that situation. And move slow, And I really wish I knew kind of what those weak reasons were, because some of that might have an impact on the future as far as knowing if they truly were weak or not. The good news is not to be needy if this happens, if she's not as close to you as you want her to be. So it looks like there might be some room for improvement. Um, if Ken, do you have?
No, I think you covered it really well. Just to add real quick, it's just another way of saying what you said. But the bad news is the weak reason. But sometimes it'll help if you can just imagine. Can you imagine when somebody gives you a weak reason for a breakup? That if you point out it's a weak reason, they're going to say, "Oh, wait, you're right. You know what? I hadn't thought of that. Okay, let's stay together." So just taking a deep breath and realizing when you're being handed a weak reason that that's not the real reason. So you can't point it out and expect that it's going to undo it. And the other thing that's the good news, that's kind of the bad news. The good news is, like Lee said, if you're with them that long, then no contact can have more impact. It doesn't always, but if you've had somebody in your life, a consistent part of your life for that long, it's easy for them to imagine how great it's going to be when they do the breakup or if they're with somebody else. But then that's imagining. When real life hits and suddenly you're not there, you're not reaching out, you're not that consistent source of support and love or encouragement or just there so they can know somebody is close to them that likes them, then it can catch them off guard how much they miss you if you can stay in no contact long enough to let them actually believe it's possible that you're not just waiting on them.
Okay. So a couple things. We're moving on with the questions here, but there was a very recent one where somebody asked, how do I feel about these people who say just get over it? Um, and apparently there's someone in the chat just telling people they should just get over it. But a lot of times I wonder if those people have really experienced it, because when you do love someone and want to be with someone, you can't just flick a switch. And if you can, you are not emotionally healthy, because to be able to have human attachments and human commitment where you have, even if we're talking about friendships, if you are close to someone and they just tell you they don't want to be in your life anymore, if you can just say, okay, whatever, you know, that's not a positive thing. Now, it may be positive in that it takes away some of your pain, or that you don't have to feel that pain. But at the same time, physically, there are people who have a disease, and I can't think of what it's called, but they could put their hand in a frying pan and their hand would be melting and they wouldn't feel it. Now, do we envy them because they can't feel pain? Because they're actually in danger. They could be killed and they wouldn't even realize they had been injured severely. And the same is true emotionally. When you are in a relationship with someone, you are supposed to feel the attachment to them that is to the point that if that attachment is severed, that it's painful, or else the relationship didn't mean much to begin with. The reason you feel the pain is because it meant a lot to you. That's a risk we all take when we get into relationships. So the idea of just moving on, as though you can just flick a switch, is ridiculous. I understand why you can't just move on and that you want to give it another chance and see if it's possible. It's totally fine. As a matter of fact, to me, that shows you're a great potential partner for someone, because you're willing to try to fix it and work on this, and you get that relationships will take work. There is no ideal where you two are never going to fight and you're never going to have anything to work on. It's going to be a constant work in progress. And the people who stick around long term, those are the ones like you. And so for those of you who are listening, you're going to find someone like you who's willing to put the effort, willing to work on it. And it could be this person who's broken up with you. They can come to their senses. Things can happen again. And I hope that for each one of you, but don't worry about this idea of just moving on. All right. We have a couple questions. We have several questions still that are kind of stacking up here. So we're going to get to them. Boyfriend of 3 years broke up via text, no explanation. He introduced our parents at Christmas. We were very close, best friends, no contact for about 40 days. He had a bad divorce 7 years ago, so he just scared. Ken, while I catch my breath.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not a big believer, and I haven't seen it when somebody breaks up with you because they're scared. I mean, and a lot of times the attachment styles, the fearful avoidant comes up. But normally, when somebody loves you, well, just imagine, ask yourself what you would do. What you would do to be with somebody that you love. Some people would run through a wall of fire. Some people would crawl on glass. Some people would go to prison for years just to get the chance to be with that other person once they got out of prison. I mean, those are real life examples that people have done. Well, except I don't know about the broken glass crawling on it thing, but people would. So when somebody breaks up with you because they're scared, that's not usually the real reason why they're doing it. And sometimes that fearful avoidant attachment style is a great cover for a manipulator. And even when you're fearful avoidant, there are certain personality styles. Like the guy that Lee mentioned earlier, Joe Beam, he calls a certain personality style a completer. They're very empathetic. They're very loving. They're very loyal. They're very long-suffering. Sometimes they wrestle with anxiety or depression, or they worry about being hurt. But at the core of all of that is actually a deep love for other people. So if they know they can be with you, and they know that you're sincerely in love with them, and they're not with you because they have a fear of something, that's almost always a sign of more of a manipulation than an actual authentic fear. People overcome fears to be with the person they love.
Yeah, exactly. They don't break up with them because of fear. So he dated you 3 years and then no explanation. So that's odd, and you're talking to a couple of guys who've done this a long time. Even though I started really young, really it's an interesting story, and I'm asked this a lot, so I'll give you the quick version. I was working for a marriage organization as basically a writer and doing some internet marketing. They helped couples who were going to divorce, basically, see if there was a way they could save the marriage. Terrific man. One of my mentors developed a disease similar to Parkinson's. I don't remember fully the details. He had to resign. He had to retire like immediately because he only had a few months to live. They asked me to fill in for a few weeks, and I was only like 20 at the time, and maybe 21. I did fill in for a few weeks. Things were going pretty well because I knew the material so well I could fill in. They ended up asking me if I wanted to get certifications to do this full time, and I did. And so that's what happened. And I ended up meeting Ken about 2.5, 3 years later, and we started working together somewhere around 2004, 2005. But so we've seen a lot of this, and I'm just saying that no explanation is unusual. I've seen it, but it's unusual. And I hate to say this, but usually it means there's someone else. So that's I see that a lot.
I would even add,
when there's no
like a narcissist.
Go ahead, buddy.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Usually, most of the time when I see that, my first thought is there's possibly someone else. There's probably someone else. And they are just ripping the Band-Aid off of themselves, and they can just move on without feeling any responsibility for helping you feel better. Most people, when they break up with someone, feel some responsibility and try to say these things that I say are BS excuses. It's bad that they do that, but some of it is because it's normal and natural to try to at least give the person a soft landing if you can, the softest landing you can. But when you don't even give an explanation, it's either because you really want to get to the other side, because people say you don't leave what you have unless you know what you're going to is better or think that it's better. And if he thinks it's better enough, then he doesn't really care. And it's just like, hey, we're breaking up so that you won't contact him again, or, so that you don't expect him to come over and pick you up. And then he's going to be with somebody else. I hate saying that. I have to be honest that that's what I think it is. And I'll have a little more to say in just a second. Ken, what were you going to say?
I was going to add that being together that long and then just no explanation, that's usually one of the stronger indicators of a narcissist, because they can do that. I mean, and the truth is, people hear like psychopath or sociopath, and it sounds unbelievable. But you're talking about 1 to 4% is the estimate of people in the population that are psychopathic, and you have even more of those that are narcissistic. But when somebody can have that kind of a long relationship, and then just just gone, no explanation, no conversation, uh, no nothing. It's because they found another resource and they can move on. And part of it likes leaving those open wounds because they know if they want to come back. A lot of times, if you don't have any idea about what caused them to disappear that quickly, they'll reappear that quickly. And they don't even have to give a full accounting of what happened because you're so emotionally devastated. You're just happy to have them back. So you're not actually going to have them explain in detail because you don't want to scare them off again. So it's one of the stronger indicators that you're with a manipulator.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some definite red flags there that suggest um, that you might be better off to not to pursue this too hard, and to you don't have to totally outright dismiss any potential, but I think you need to wait and observe and see what you can learn, because I think there could be somebody else, and like Ken said, that kind of has the spidey senses acting up a little bit.
Yeah. And we'll say if they come back and give you a full explanation, that's a good sign. A narcissist or manipulator might come back and they don't want to get into the details. So if they do come back, they should be willing to talk about every detail about what made them do that in the first place. If they're not willing to do that, that's a really bad sign.
All right. So we have several others, and for some reason YouTube is acting funny because I'm not seeing them. So let me see just a second. So while I'm doing this, you can schedule a coaching call with Ken by going to dotheyloveme.com. You can also schedule a coaching call with Coach Rex if you go to myexbackcoach.com and click on anxiety. All right. But yes, you can schedule a coaching call with that man who has waxed eloquently tonight. All right. So this is from Paul. We dated for 10 years. Making sure I didn't. Okay. Yeah. We dated for 10 years. She left unexpectedly 1.5 years ago and has been in a relationship for a year. She contacts me, wants to talk and see me. When we do, it's great, and typically ends up on the couch. And I assume on the couch that you're just watching a movie and holding hands. No, I get it. Um, all right, so she's with somebody else. Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah, she has been. So she's in a relationship, and you two are sleeping together. Well, that's not good all around. First of all, we have the ethical dilemma there that I'm not going to preach you about, but it's there. But secondly, what does it say about you, okay, that you are to be had while she's also with another guy? Now, again, there was somebody earlier, we haven't gotten to this, but they asked me about poly relationships. Whew. I've just got to fall back on the experience card and tell you that those usually just blow up and do not end well for anybody involved. And that's about all I'm going to get into that. But at the moment, you are allowing her to be with this guy and still to get to be with you, even to have sex with you. You're actually, though you don't know it, if you want something different than that, in other words, if you want a committed relationship with her, then what you're doing is you are showing her that you want her so badly that you will take being shared, sharing, you will share her just to have a piece of her. Okay, which might sound romantic, but it will lead to her disrespecting you and taking you for granted. And the odds of you getting what you really want, which I assume, based on you asking me a question, I assume it's you wanting to be in an exclusive relationship with her, just the two of you. If you show her you're willing to share, all that does is show her that you don't respect yourself enough to have standards. So she's likely to disrespect you as well, to not have respect. And if she can't respect you, she cannot feel attraction for you. That's especially true of attraction coming from a female to a man. If she can't respect you, it's very difficult for attraction to thrive. So even though it might seem like, and there's some other coaches, who, you know, I've had great conversations with, and I think in particular this one guy, I think is a good guy, and he thinks I'm a good guy. We would probably call each other friends. He would probably tell you, no big deal. She's sleeping with other people. I'm sleeping with other people too. But if you're wanting an exclusive relationship with somebody, okay, that's what I'm talking about. If that's what you want, then by sharing her like that, you actually make that less likely because you show you don't have standards. You show that you're willing to share with another guy when that's not what you want to do. Okay, and that's the key. Because if you were fine with it, that's another conversation. But at least she would know that you were fine with it. But she probably knows that you want it to be just the two of you. That's where the real problem is there. So believe it or not, I think the first step for you, if you really want her back, is next time you two are on that couch, maybe there shouldn't even be a next time. When she wants to come over, I would start going into where I'm friend zoning her a little bit because she's with somebody. Show her you have some standards and show her you respect yourself. And you might be surprised at how much she starts respecting you and wanting to be with you, and that she breaks up with this guy. And even then, it's a weird situation because I don't know all the details. I'm not into, especially if this is I'm pretty certain this is not a marriage situation, or I wouldn't be talking this way, because that's bad. But I've said a lot, and I'm going to toss the baton over because I'm really thirsty.
Well, you can look at it like this too. Anytime you act outside of an expected behavioral pattern in a relationship, you trigger fascination, curiosity, and second guessing. If you readjust your sense of worth and priority in a relationship to the point that you've drained yourself of all sense of respect, that's not going to drive them back because, like Lee said, it's impossible to feel attraction for somebody that you don't feel respect for. And one of the things that drives me crazy is we live in a culture now, we have enlightened ourselves to a state of ignorance. Like we've decided that being jealous is a bad thing. Sometimes being jealous is a good thing. It's a natural reaction to somebody that you deeply, authentically love. So the idea that you're trying to prove how strong you are by pretending like it doesn't bother you that the person you love is sleeping with somebody else or with somebody else, you're actually trying to force yourself into what you defined as strength by putting yourself in a situation that is going to mentally and emotionally break you down. And if you stay in that situation long enough, you will lose respect for yourself. They will lose respect for you, and you'll actually feel weaker and weaker. And you'll realize that even the good days that you're chasing, trying to get with this person, you don't really have good days. You just have less awful days. Like I'm still with them, so I don't have to deal with the pain of them not being in my life anymore. But you're hiding the fact that even being with them, you're with them in such a way that you still feel miserable. You don't feel valued. You don't feel loved. You don't feel cherished. You feel like you compromised your sense of self-worth so you don't have to feel as much pain. But that's not really a win. It's like you're sabotaging yourself. I will say, because it looks like he's getting some water too. You can look at it like this. Sometimes I'll have people say, yeah, but if I don't stay in the fight, they've already shown that they're willing to walk away. So we had two people in a relationship, and now we just have one fighting for it. If I risk losing them, then now there's nobody fighting for the relationship. Well, that's a lie. It's a false premise. If you have one person fighting for a relationship, you don't have a relationship. You have delusion. You have denial. So the real question isn't, how do I get them to jump back in this relationship with me? I always say it's like me saying that me and Jennifer Aniston are now really over because I've been fighting to have a relationship with her for 20 years. Well, she's never actually been in the relationship with me, so that would make me delusional.
It's her loss.
And it covers up the real question. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it covers up, we were on a break. It covers up the real question, which is what Lee says. How do I spike attraction? You spike attraction, you increase attraction by showing more strength than likely either one of you expected you to demonstrate.
Awesome. Even the part that I wasn't here for, it was awesome.
Thank you. Chest bump.
I pushed my ex-girlfriend. I pushed my girlfriend away because of mental health issues to the point where she lost feelings for me. I've apologized and have truly changed, but she says she does not feel the same. Broken up for 5 months, did no contact. Pushed my ex-girlfriend away because of mental health issues. So I'm thinking he's saying he has the mental health issues um, to the point where she lost feelings. He's apologized and changed, but she doesn't feel the same. So she's lost feelings. Broken up for 5 months, did no contact. So I'm wondering if that means no contact for 5 months or not. So I don't know all the details, obviously, but it sounds like this could simply be a case where you have got to give her up because um, she said she lost feelings. A lot of it was because you were pushing her away. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we tell someone we're going to change or um, that we have changed, we expect for their attraction to instantly come back. But it doesn't work that way. Um, Attraction is one of those things that can be instant, which means it didn't take much time at all. We just met and we had this amazing connection, amazing conversation. We both liked what we saw, and it's quick. But unfortunately, it can be very slow to come back when it has been eroded. And so um, you may think that you have changed. And I believe you. I'm not saying that you haven't. But just because you have changed does not take away the injury of what she felt to the point that she feels attracted to you again, or to the point that she believes that you've changed and that things will be better going forward. And so that's where it's really difficult to revive attraction quickly. So your best bet is to stay away from her and to show her you're strong enough to stay away. But also, you know, I don't know what the issues were, but this is one of the situations where you can use social media to your benefit because you were basically, by your own admission, you were in the wrong, and she does not have that spark back because you can stifle attraction to the point that it just stops functioning, right? Uh, some of that's chemical based, but you can, do some things in social media, even if she's still following you or if she ever did, where you post some pictures maybe that suggest some mental health improvement, and maybe that could be, maybe you didn't have close relationships with people. I don't know what it is, but then you post some pictures, not where you're trying too hard. We don't want it to look like you're trying to show her that, or else you actually do the opposite. Let's post some pictures of you doing some things with some other people. Um, if it had more to do with maybe anger, because a lot of mental health problems cause anger, or at least do not work well with it, then some of your posts can be lighthearted. And, Facebook has this interesting option where you can do videos on Facebook where you talk about things. And that might be something that you even try. I mean, at this point, you're really in one of those you don't have anything to lose type of situations. But even if you did a video where you're talking about some things going on in your life, kind of updating your friends, I've seen people do those. They'll say, "Hey, everybody, wanted to update you about what's going on with me." And they talk about what's going on in the last week or two. They do some shout outs to some people. I really enjoyed Thursday night. It's kind of like a video journal, video diary for women. I don't know why we have different titles for those things for men and women, but for you, it gets to be a video journal. Um, and I have seen some people do those, and eventually, it did help, at least to where their ex reached out, because they start hearing things about what's going on with you, and all of a sudden you get a message on Facebook, "Hey, I heard this happened." Now, probably won't happen the first time you do it, but if a lot of people now are doing these kind of like weekly, like, "Hey, I wanted to update everybody on what's going on." Some people do them daily. I think that's too much, but some people do them daily. But if you do them somewhat regularly, so she could see some of what's going on with you, what it can actually do is not only show her that maybe you have overcome some of that, but also it can create some of that intimacy again because she's been without it. You said you were in no contact for 5 months. So she's been without it enough, long time. If it would have been able to jolt anything, it would have. You can actually, it's sort of like, you stimulate it. Something can be stimulated, at least, we're talking like physically, um, with cells in the body, with blood, with the immune system, sometimes by starving the system. So, for example, if someone's fast, their immune system actually reacts, and your immune system becomes stronger to pathogens, viruses, bacteria, parasites than it was when you weren't fasting. But there's also a point where feeding yourself strengthens your immune system too. So stimulation can occur by addition or subtraction sometimes. So at this point, you start feeding her some of that intimacy. Since you can't be around her, you can't just go up and do that, but you can with social media, doing some of these things that I talked about. And so just share some of the facts that are going on in your life, some good times you're having with some other people. Give her the opportunity to see it. And, that's probably one of your best options at this point. All right, so we have Louise from Austria. She says, Ken knows the story. Ken knows. Borderline-ish ex who devalued, then came back. I'm currently taking time and space. I want to end with strength. Should I wait until she contacts, or does it make any difference? Ken, since you know, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I kind of want. They might want to hear you since we've talked. They probably want the reinforcement, but I'm just saying, especially with the borderline, it's very similar to dissociative personality disorder, where there's two compulsions that they're just kind of, one's usually driving them towards the idealized person, and there a lot of times they can thrive in pursuit of the person of their dreams, but when they actually have to start living out the happily ever after, when their pursuit's over and it's like they've kind of caught that person they idealized, then suddenly the anxiety starts to occur because they don't actually, in most cases, know how to have a long-term, emotionally healthy, mature, fully empathetic relationship. And when the future becomes now, like a lot of times what triggers a borderline is like a proposal or a wedding date or buying a house or ring shopping. So again, when it moves from being in pursuit of the person they've idealized to actually having that life and that long-term commitment, they start to get uncomfortable. And then the anxiety and compulsion starts to drive them away from you. They look for reasons. And a lot of times they'll really hand you the box of nothing reasons that I was talking about, or that you mentioned earlier, where maybe we rushed into this and maybe we just got caught up in the moment. They start to future cast a lot of times. Well, what's going to happen with this? Or what about our age difference? Well, your age has been the same. Well, what about what about your kids? What about my family? What about our religion? Things that you've already had to deal with before suddenly become deal breakers. And even if you try to discuss them, if you pursue somebody who's in this state, they just get more convinced that you're the wrong fit for them. If you can walk away with strength, confidence, resilience, and re-trigger that sense that is the person of their dreams, because you have a sense of identity, you have a sense of who you are, a lot of times that triggers the other anxiety that says, well, what if I'm losing the person that I love? What if they were the perfect person for me? What if I'm making a mistake now? So again, deep down, borderline is an identity crisis. You don't really know who they are, and they're afraid of making a mistake of certainty one way or the other. I say it like this. If there was a button that said, I'm going to be with them forever, they don't want to hit it. They don't trust themselves to know. If there's another button that says, I want to lose you forever. Now, if you make some people with it mad, they'll hit it. They'll stomp it. They'll stab it to death. But normally, they don't really want to hit that either. They can exist in the middle ground, not having to feel the anxiety of making a definite long-term decision in a relationship one way or the other. So in this situation, I normally say, look, if you're dealing with borderline and you've already chased, don't chase. It might get really painful, but Give them the time, give them the distance. They'll find a way to reach out to you if they're interested, even if it's subtle, even if it's a small way to do it. Like recently, I've been talking to a guy for 4 months, and it was really difficult. But recently, his ex had her little brother reach out and send him a message to check on something that you could have easily Googled. So then I recommended, well, follow up with her and say you're reaching out to her just to check on her little brother. So he did. And they just had their first date in 4 months, just a few days ago. And they're in contact again. But normally I'd say don't go in pursuit, because you need to rebuild that sense of, hey, I want to be with you, but I don't need to be with you. That's how you get them to go from the devaluing back into the idealizing, and fear that they've just lost the person that they really want to be with.
So we're going to call this at 9:00 p.m. Central, which is in 15 minutes, because we're probably both suffering from a little bit of brain fry. And that'll be what, our third hour? Is that right? 6:45, 7:45, 8:45.
Oh,
time flies. So
yeah. I'm sorry. I do remember. I'm sorry. He just said it's Lewis, so the spelling was off. But yeah, I know Lewis. This guy looks like, okay, this guy's a perfect example of borderline. He looks like I always tell him he looks like Chris Helmsworth's brother. I mean, this guy looks like a rugby model. And every time he does what I was saying, he kind of shows that strength and resilience. She comes closer. Every time he turns to her and it's like, okay, let's have our forever moment, she pulls back. So it's a very predictable but painful pattern.
Yeah, and that's where people tend to, in my opinion, look at it from one extreme or the other. In that, when she comes back to you because you've shown you can stay away, doesn't mean you have to be cold. It doesn't mean that you have to, treat her as though you could take her or leave her, in terms of being rude to her or something like that. But a lot of times, especially in a situation of this being the guy, and she's the BPD, just showing leadership. And I don't mean to where you're bossing her around. Okay, that's some cheesy, ridiculous stuff. But you can do that sometimes with certain women, guys, especially if you're able to do it a little bit playfully, because some people like that. But showing leadership in terms of just planning some things out as a way of being, really it's a thoughtful thing to do. So, for example, date night. Say, hey, we're going to go out this Friday. I'll pick you up at 7. It's going to be a great night. And she says, what are we doing? It's a surprise. Got it all planned out. Stuff like that, where you lead, but it's not from a place of I'm the general and you're the sergeant or something like that. It's from a place of simply being, I'm trying to think of the right
Confident.
word, considerate, really, and really knowing the person that you're with, because some people really need that. Some people don't, but usually with the situation you're talking about, you can do that and show leadership, and it works really well. Now, Ken knows more about the situation, so he could say, no, Lee, you don't understand what's going on.
No, you're right. And okay. A little example from that story, when she'd actually kind of broken up with him and it crushed him, because he's an authentic, deeply loving man. I mean, he really does love her. And when he kind of stood up for himself, he found out to the extent of what she'd been hiding from him. He was suddenly strong, confident, because he values being respected. So she came back to him, like even emotionally came back to him, like, please forgive me. I can't believe I did this. And then the second he kind of softened and started speaking to her like, of course he still cares about her. And he let the anger ebb out. He walks out of the room. And by the time he comes back into the room, after being gentle and loving and understanding, even after being kind of betrayed, all of a sudden she was cold again. So it was like just giving her that much reassurance. Within a couple of minutes, you could tell a noticeable shift in her attraction towards him.
That's frustrating. Yeah, and that's sometimes it just takes some time of where you don't discuss the relationship. You just are in the moment, and you're with her. Let's do this. I've got to do this. You're staying in the moment. You're describing what you're about to do. You're doing these things. You're having a good time with her, but you're not getting into the explanations, the details, and even kind of the lovey-dovey, stuff. And that's not forever, but it is for a time. And in that situation, some people are just that way. Not everybody's that way, but that's what I would definitely suggest there. So Laurie says second breakup. Um, and after Laurie, there's a few more. We're going to get to these. Second breakup, they say now they need space to decide between two people. The first breakup, they ghosted me. Excuse now is family, finances, and not wanting to hurt the other person. Ooh. How long do you wait for decision? Ken?
Yeah, not wanting to hurt the other person. That's a big indicator of this isn't somebody that you have the foundation to build a long-lasting relationship with. And if you want to win them back, you have to be willing to walk away and appear way more confident and sure of your position than you might feel. But I mean, again, you can kind of flip positions and ask yourself, if you have to consistently tell yourself, I could never say to them, I could never do to them what they just did to me. I mean, can you imagine any couple that you know that really love each other? One of them telling the other one, well, I can't stand the thought of hurting this person. Or what is my family going to think? Like, I love my family, but if I have to choose between being with the woman I love, if I have to choose between my wife and hurting my family's feelings, my family better buckle up. And I'm certainly not going to put another woman's feelings ahead of my wife's feelings, because that's part of what that loyalty, that's part of what that commitment means. If I have to choose between her and somebody else being hurt, unless it's unreasonable, unless it's a manipulation, other than that, somebody else's feelings are going to get hurt.
Yeah, this is not a situation where I don't think you should strategize for a moment on this guy. He's got to decide who he wants to hurt and who he doesn't, whose feelings matter most to him. And right now, that's not you, Laurie. I really hate saying that, but it's not. And all these excuses, and he ghosted you. There's character issues, most likely maturity issues. You need to try to move on from him. And once you're over it, and you've probably had breakups before, and you've gotten over those, you will find that you're better off, and it makes a lot of sense. But I just, how long do you wait for a decision? You don't. If he's having this much trouble making it, that should be enough information for you to make a decision. You shouldn't be at the mercy of his decision. This is not his call. This is your call now. And I really suggest that you go the other way and forget about him when you can. And I know that's tough. All right. So Mac.
Can I quote you to you?
Please.
So you said earlier, you said earlier, like sometimes a good man would make a bad choice. Sometimes a bad man will make a bad choice. What she's describing is the choice of a bad man or a manipulator or somebody who's not authentic.
Yeah.
A good man won't consistently make that kind of decision because he couldn't live with it.
Yeah, he's got multiple flags there. So Mac, who says he spoke with you today, we broke up a month ago, tried no contact multiple times. She reaches out every time.
Yeah.
I'm sick of getting my hopes up every time. Yeah. So you said you talked to Ken. So Ken, can you tell me, what is it like, when she comes back? What happens? What's going on? What are they doing together? What's being said?
It's very similar to a question we answered early on in this super chat. It's when it feels like maybe he's actually gone, she just reappears just enough to get his attention. And then when he's, it's understandable. I mean, I totally feel and have felt what Mac feels. It's like, please reach out, please reach out. Oh, she reached out. So then you respond to the reaching out. But then you relieve all the anxiety that she was feeling to get her to reach out in the first place. You just reminded her that, hey, I'm on the porch. I'm right here. I'm like, hey, can I come back in? I've never really gone anywhere. I can exercise enough control to not be chasing you, but anytime you want to kind of beck and call me, I'm right there. So in
So,
this situation, what I told him is you have to demonstrate enough strength when she tries that little small, it's like a pittance, it's like breadcrumbing. You don't just jump at the chance. You actually take a half step back even more and just, you have to establish that you're not just there anytime she wants to ring the bell.
so, um, when I talked earlier about kind of how slow you move when they come back like that, that's definitely going to be something that I would suggest to you is just not to talk about the relationship, not to talk about the future, to really try to stay in the moment, to enjoy the moment. But if they bring up the relationship, to really tell them, I'm just taking this one day at a time. I'm not sure. And you could even say, you know, because you come back, you go away, you're in, you're out. That's just not what I'm looking for. So I just don't know. I would even say that where you really push back strongly with something with wording like that. That's not what I'm looking for. Um, Not only does that show that you have some reservation about them, that you're strong enough to say that, and that you're not rushing back into this, but it also, when they start to feel like they want to bail again, they
Yeah.
recognize, hopefully, some of their own pattern. And they start to think, he may not take me back at all next time. He may not even allow me to, he may ignore me. He may not even allow me back into his life as even a friend. Um, it gives them some pushback, and you get to say this is not acceptable without pitching a fit or whining. So that's something that I would do, and it shows them that it's not attractive to you either. You know, it's not. All right. Steven says, I guess that's New Zealand. No contact for about 6 months. Ex is using a friend who keeps messaging me to meet up and ask a lot of questions. I politely told her meeting with her is inappropriate. Is that right? What should I do about the ex? Ken?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm going to refer back to something you said earlier. You give them the power of your absence. So sometimes people can live vicariously through a friend because they still get access to you. They get to know that you're hurting. They get to know that you miss them. They get to know what's going on in your life. If somebody's trying to keep contact with you after they broke up with you, use that to your benefit. Let that anxiety, let that sense of loss build. I think you did the right thing not agreeing to meet. If you, at the same time, some people have a breakup and they just naturally have such an overlap of friends that you don't really have that choice. If that happens to be the case, then anytime you have a chance to talk about it, you don't have to pretend like it doesn't hurt. Embrace the fact that it hurt, but then project strength that you can handle it. Like, yeah, it really rocked me for a bit. I didn't want to break up, but hey, I would rather her tell me now. I find out later that she didn't want to be with me because I don't actually want to be with somebody who isn't certain they want to be with me. So there's a little just kind of a side trail to cover it if this isn't matching your situation. But with the situation you mentioned in the question, I think it's fine. They don't give them free access to you to check on you. Just protect that sense of you don't want to be with me. I'm going to move on with strength. I'm going to move on and I'm going to be fine on my own.
So disappear. All right. Had a great relationship with boyfriend. His ex disappeared for 2 months and came back. He suddenly realized he loved her more. I finally blocked him today. Will no contact work if he's already responding to his ex doing no contact? Yeah, it can. Because it worked when she did it and then came back. That time that he didn't have her, he probably felt like he had lost her. And now all of a sudden she's back. And sometimes that can actually work against her, because it's sort of like he was able to get her back that quickly. Like I've talked about, it's a little bit anticlimactic. It can make him feel like her value is less than he thought it was to him. Not saying that's exactly what's going to happen. So this is where, if I were you, I'd do a wait and see. Obviously, you have feelings for this guy. So I'm not saying you should move on and just forget him and blah, blah, blah. But you could have a wait and see attitude. determine an amount of time. Maybe it's 3 months. And after that 3 months, you are making the decision. You're going to move on, whatever that means. It doesn't necessarily mean you start dating right away, but you're just going to kind of wait and see if you can figure this out. For some people, this is a deal breaker. I wish it was for you, but it's not. I get that. But I would suggest you stay in no contact for 3 months if you don't hear from him. Kind of wait and see what happens. It could all fall apart. He could decide he wants you. And then you have to decide if you're willing to give him a chance when he's done this, back and forth. I want you, I want her game. It's a strong statement that you said he realized he loves her. If that's what he told you, your odds are probably less, than they would be if he didn't. But the fact that the situation is what it is, I would give him 3 months of where you're you're not going to contact him and you're not going to do anything. You're just going to wait and see. You're going to give yourself time to heal. And after that 3 months, I'd say the time's up and you should move on. But he just as easily could come back to you with no contact. Some people just really respond to it, like it's catnip. And that could be a bigger mess than what you think it is. That could be what you don't want. All right. So we're at 9:00. So we've been doing this 3 hours. So we're going to get going. If we didn't answer your question, you can certainly book a coaching call with Ken at dotheyloveme.com. You can also book one with Coach Rex on anxiety. You go to myexpatcoach.com, click on anxiety. You'll see how to do that. We're going to have these again, and we'll be better at getting the questions because a lot of this was new on how to do this, and there were a lot of questions, and I know we didn't get to some, and I'm sorry about that. You can email us. If we can get to them, we will. We already have a ton of emails, and so it may be a while before you hear from us. You can also comment on my YouTube channel, and other people can suggest videos I have that might speak to your topic. And you can always, the next time we have one of these, ask your question. But I highly recommend you book a coaching call or get my emergency breakup kit to get some of these questions answered. And one more time, you can book a coaching call with Ken at dotheyloveme.com or with Rex at myexpatcoach.com and click on anxiety. All right. So this has been Coach Lee and Coach Ken, and we appreciate you being
Thanks, everybody.
here. And hope that everybody has a good week. So take care, and thanks for watching.